Welcome to Northwest Arkansas. We are here live at the 2025 Lifetime Grand Prix. Stop number 6, the Big Sugar Gravel. And, well, the story of the weekend so far has been weather. We've been keeping our eye on the weather since probably about Wednesday or Thursday with some impending storms. You can see outside. It's a little bit damp out there. The weather god's not going to smile on our area out here today. So it's going to be an interesting race. So if you've been following along, we are going to do the 50-mile version today. It's a lot of debate back and forth, the final decision coming a little bit earlier this morning, but that decision didn't come lightly, and trying to take into account all the factors, trying to have an exciting finale to the race, and also trying to keep the athletes as safe as they can. So 50 miles is what it's going to be. It's going to be a great race. I'm Bill Ellison. I'm joined here in the studio, Meredith Miller, and we are excited to bring you what is going to be maybe a little bit more of an exciting race than what we anticipated.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited. We don't typically see I'd call it a sprint race today. Yes, Shawamigan is the shortest race of the Lifetime Grand Prix, but we don't see that on the gravel side. So I think everybody has had to really shift from what they were expecting today to be a 100-mile race to a 50-mile race. And I know my heart rate is going right now because I'm just super excited about how everyone's had to adapt to what they're going to face today.
Yeah, doing a little homework and looking at last year's average speeds for the 100-mile course. And, it was dry conditions. Obviously, we're not going to necessarily get that today, not all day anyway. And the speeds were like 21 miles an hour average speed over the course of 100 miles, 105 miles, and about 6,000 feet of elevation. So you have to imagine what that's going to be cut in half today, roughly 54 miles, about 3,000 feet of elevation. And I mean, if the weather holds off towards the tail end, I mean, we could be looking at 22, maybe even 23 miles an hour average pace out there today. So we're looking at a 2 hour and 40-minute race is going to be my guess.
Oh, I would agree. I think the course today is going to be really fast. Sure, if the rain starts to fall, could slow things down just a little bit. But just this course, the way that it goes today, there's less elevation. It's about 50 miles with 3,000 feet of elevation, so no major climbs today to really separate things naturally. So the racers today are just going to go all out because it's going to be so short. They have to have high speeds. Otherwise, they're just all going to come to the finish line in one big group and see who has the biggest sprint. But they're not going to want it to come down to that. So they're going to do everything they can to split things up along the way, which just means the speeds are going to be incredibly high today.
Yeah, because we are on this 50-mile course, a little different, obviously, than the 100-mile course in a lot of ways. A lot of longer, wide-open sections out here on the course, literally some spots where you can see up to a minute ahead. Some of the turns are a little bit wider, so it's going to lend itself to that faster overall pace and really maybe a more tactical race because of those roads have such a long visibility line that it's going to be really hard to get out of sight. In the past, we've had a lot of tree canopy. We've had a lot of the course really kind of winding back and forth, so it was a little easier maybe to get out of sight, hence out of mind, but not a lot of that today. And to your point, not a lot of big climbs out there to necessarily really shake it up. It may well come down to that inside that final 5-6 miles. There's that real pinch point into the last bit of single track, and that comes before the final couple of climbs on A road. And that we're anticipating that might be one of the bigger launching pads out there today.
Sure, and the other thing to note is that not everyone was planning for this course today. We didn't know until this morning for sure. And so there are some sections on this course that the racers may have pre-ridden and shakeout rides and stuff, but they weren't necessarily planning to be racing on this course today. So there could be some newer sections that they've ridden on, but not necessarily were planning to race on today. So that kind of throws things, throws them for a loop today as well.
Yeah, the only real knowledge that some riders may have is, the final 10 miles of the course today is the same as the final 10 miles in last year's 100. So they're a little bit familiar with that of course, but really that's about it. It's really a different loop where the 100 went out after that first 10, 11 miles. It diverted in a different direction than what we're doing this year on the 50. So a little bit interesting. I think when the word started to get out of the options yesterday afternoon, my understanding was some of the athletes and the staff actually drove sections of the 50 just to kind of wrap their head around the idea and be as prepared as they can. But either way, I think, obviously the 100 would have been great, but the 50 is a very happy medium to try and satisfy everyone and ensure an exciting finale here to the 2025 Lifetime Grand Prix. And it's been such a great series all year long. The racing has been great. We've seen some new names on both the men's and the women's side kind of pop themselves into contention. And looking down the leaderboard for today, we've got so many potential scenarios, especially on the men's side, for who could win the overall. I mean, it's not a lock for Keegan Swenson. Simone Pelot, Cam Jones, who's had some phenomenal rides. He's won 2 rounds of the series so far. And then Toby Rode, also very much in the mix. And on the women's side, Sofia Gomez-Vichafanye, she looks like she's got this one locked up, but just behind her, Cecily Decker in second and Melissa Rollins in third. They're only separated by a few points. So a lot of races kind of within the race. They're going to make this even more chaotic out here today.
Yes. I mean, I'm so excited that we still get to race today. Looking at the forecast, as you've mentioned, we weren't really sure what was going to happen. And the fact that we're getting to race the 50-miler today with the standings so tight and so close is super, super exciting. As you've mentioned, Sophia has it locked up, but behind her, Cecily and Melissa are going to battle out. And basically on the men's side, for those top 4 that you mentioned, Keegan Swenson, Cameron Jones, Simone Pelot, and Torbjorn Rode, however they finish today essentially will determine the overall standing. So whatever their placing is today, whether they win or not, they don't necessarily have to win. However they finish today kind of determines the overall placing in the Lifetime Grand Prix series. And I was even yesterday playing around on AI, just typing in different things to see what all the different scenarios are of how things could play out today. And you can get really into the weeds to figure that out. Because there's a lot of stuff happening beyond those top 4 in the men's race and, beyond those top 3 in the women's race as well. So there, as you said, there's a race within a race today, and that's the exciting thing. So we could see different tactics playing out of who is marking who and who's blocking who, whatever. So we're going to have an exciting race on our hands today for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty wild to watch this unfold. And, let's not forget, as we talk about all these battles for the potential win, new this year is the top 5 men, top 5 women, and the overall will get automatic entry into next year's Grand Prix. So that means there's going to be a lot of battles, for athletes that are, kind of occupying 5th through 8th or on the men's side and 5th through 9th, so that to see who gets into that top 5. So just so many different layers we're looking at here today. And of course the under 23 component as well. Both our men and women are leaders, first and second, or first place rather for the men, first place for the women. The overall winner there, they get to move into the series next year as well. So Griffin Hoppen and Ruth Holcomb, I believe they've both got it locked up. Both those riders had great rides last week. Right? Ruth had a phenomenal ride, so expect to see her up in the mix as well, but she knows she's got that U23 title locked up, and that's going to be a great development pathway for those riders to make their way into the 2026 Grand Prix.
Right, yeah, it's going to be an exciting, again, that's almost a race within a race within a race, because not only are all the riders racing just to get into the top 10 for the money for the overall Lifetime Grand Prix series, but then they're fighting to get into that top 5 to get their automatic qualification for next year. So that's 6 spots that will automatically qualify for next year based on how we finish today. So a lot on the line for everyone. And it just means I don't know, I'm so excited about what's going to happen today in this 50-mile race. It's just going to be so fast and so furious. And the tactics, too, the riders, they had their plan for the 100-mile race, and now they're having to readjust for a 50-mile race. And, where they might have thought their attack points were in the 100-mile race. They're having to rethink that for the 50-mile race. As you said, some of them have gone out and driven the course yesterday to see where some of that might land today. And then also just who creates alliances out there on the road and who's marking one another. So much going on that we'll see unfold, but just in a much faster version today. Also, in the 100-mile course, they're used to seeing 2 aid stations. There will just be the 1 aid station today at the Whistling Springs Brewery. So I'm curious if they're not going to stop, and I'm curious if some of the riders will even take anything, because in 50 miles in a 2.5 to 40-minute race, most of these athletes might just get by with what they have on their bike. So we'll see how things go today.
Yeah, you kind of wonder. I mean, you should be able to take enough nutrition in your pockets and not really need those aid stations, of course, unless you have mechanical problems. And one of the defining features that's always been a constant of the Big Sugar gravel is the gravel. It's not like anything else that we see. It's not like Unbound. All right, our national anthem. That means we are closing in on start time here. Riders going to get the game face going on as we take a look at the front row there. Everyone double checking things. Keegan Swenson looking to take another overall title here. He's got his work cut out for him out there today, maybe more so than he ever has.
Well, definitely. I think by this point, every year so far, he's had it locked up by today, if not 1 or 2 races prior to the last day. I think we saw more nerves from him maybe on the start line this morning, watching that national anthem, and a few of those guys, Alexei Vermeulen next to him, just taking big breaths because they know everything is on the line in the next 50 miles, and it's just all going to come so fast, so furious. We haven't seen a race like this on gravel with these guys and women today, so how they're going to race is going to be really interesting. I'm really excited to see what the tactics are for the day and who goes to the front. We've seen there's Cameron Jones, who the winner of Unbound and the Little Sugar last weekend, just taking the reins and going from the front of the race, for so long. I don't know that he'll be able to do that today with how fast it is, but I don't doubt that he'll try.
Yeah, I think he doesn't know any other way to race than just, kind of crack that throttle and go. And he's such a happy-go-lucky guy. It's fun to talk to him after the race about some of those tactics. And he just wants to race his bike. And, if he sees that guys are easing up and trying to think about a move, he just stands on it, goes to the front. And, he's strong enough that it works. I think I remember at Unbound, he was, for that race at least in particular, he was telling me he was taking in like 150 grams of carbs an hour to just stay on top of the fueling out there. So he's got this endless supply of energy as we're now getting our countdown on the line. So we are just about to get underway. Hard to believe that it seems like just yesterday we were at Sea Otter doing this, and now we're at the end of the season, the final stop of 2025. And just like that, our men are now getting themselves underway here
Oh, Bill, I can't stop saying it. I'm so excited because it's going to be such a different race than we're used to seeing today. Yeah, these races, these pro racers always go out fast. I mean, when I have started some of these races before myself, I am incredibly impressed with how fast they go out of the gate, even when it's 100 miles or 150 or 200 or whatever it is. And today, I think as soon as the lead vehicles pull out of the way and the race is truly underway, we are going to see someone going to the front of this race, and they're going to lay down the gas right away.
Yeah, this neutral is going to be incredibly brief. And if you're lining up at the back and kind of fidgeting with your shoes or your helmet or what's in your pockets, you better rethink that tactic, because the second it gets on the gas, it's going to be a big challenge to move up here. So you remember we were talking about a little bit about the course here, and a lot of long open sections of road where you can see for a very long way out there. The final 10 miles as they come back into town, they will have seen that last year in the 100 as the final 10 miles. But really, other than that, this course relatively new. Only the 50-mile athletes have really seen this in the past, unless these riders have done a little bit of recon. So that's going to add into a little bit of the fun as well as we start to make our way out of Bentonville proper here, and still waiting. Our pace car still just kind of sitting there setting the tone before we get out of town. So if we take a look at the overall standings right now, remember Keegan Swenson is your overall leader. He's got 98 points right now, and Simone Pilot, he's kind of been the revelation, the rider from Switzerland that lives in Colombia. He is currently in second place. He's tied with Cam Jones. They both have 97 points. In fourth place, Toby Rode with 96 points at the moment. We've got our Ford Bronco there leading them on out of town.
Yeah, I don't know if ever in the history of the Lifetime Grand Prix, which we're in year 4, but as we mentioned, Keegan Swenson has always had this locked up in the past, and this is just such a different way to begin the race today, because normally he's just been able to sit back and kind of, oh boy, coming around the cars there at the start of this race. But, normally he's been able to come in super relaxed and just be like, okay, I mean, he's a competitor, right? He's always going to want to win a race no matter what, even though he didn't have to for the overall series. But today he definitely has his work cut out for him, as he's got, several guys just chomping on, right on his heels to take the overall today. And like I said before, we'll see who has some alliances out there. Keegan has always raced with his teammate Tobin, Ortenblad. Now some other guys who are right behind him, we'll see if they've been able to, talk to other guys in the peloton and say, hey, you're lower down in the standings, or maybe even some people who are in the race today that aren't in the Lifetime Grand Prix, and try to say, hey, let's work together. If you help me, I'll help you, and either get you in the prize money or help me get up higher in the overall standings. So it's I'm curious to see who is going to be working for who out there today.
Kind of an interesting note looking at Keegan's results throughout the Grand Prix. His 2 worst results, and I say worst with kind of a little bit of an asterisk, because he's not finished outside of the top 10, but he was 10th at Schwamigan and 10th at Little Sugar. And interestingly, those were both the shortest races of the series. So, I wonder if that's a little bit of a theme here, since today is going to only be 50 miles and make it, one of the shorter races of the series. So I wonder if he's thinking about that, and I wonder if that is just kind of stating to us that he prefers the longer courses. Obviously, we all know he loves the high altitude of Leadville, but he's also had a great ride at Unbound, and Sea Otter obviously at 100 miles taking the win there. But we'll have to see. So 10th place in the two shorter races out there. Kind of an interesting footnote to keep in mind.
Yeah, I think, Keegan, he's the mountain bike marathon world champion. So we know that he likes to go the distance. He can go the distance. I would say those marathon long distance races do suit him better. So we'll see how he can adjust today. It just means that there's going to be less attrition today, fewer guys coming to the finish line together for a sprint. I don't know that Keegan is in the group in the men's peloton today. I don't know that anyone would say he has the fastest sprint by any means, but he is one of the most tenacious riders out there. So I think he'll do whatever he can to prevent it from coming down to a sprint. So we'll see how it all plays out on the road. But here we're watching the women's call-ups, getting ready for their race this morning. And same thing. So Sofia Gomez-Vichifanier does have the series locked up right now, but it is really tight right behind her between Cecily Decker and Melissa Rollins, separated by just 2 points. So, again, anything's going to happen out there. We'll see in the women's race if anyone has formed alliances out there to help one another. And after Melissa, we have Alexis Skarda in fourth. And she could still get herself onto the podium. There's a few different scenarios that have to happen today for her to get onto the top 3 podium, but it's not out of reach.
Yeah, I think nothing's out of reach. So, yeah, they're going to have to keep their eye on Skarda. And even back in 5th place, Cecile Lejeune sitting back there. And she's got a narrow lead over Sarah Lang and Haley Preen. So when we kind of expand the conversation and talk about those top 5 that in the overall, they will get the automatic entry into 2026. We're going to have those battles going on between Alexis, Cecile, Sarah, and Haley. And even Hannah Otto is in the mix. Hannah had a great ride last weekend at Little Sugar. Of course, she's got that national champion jersey on from the mountain bike side of things. Doesn't get to wear that out there today. But Braden Lang, going back to the guys' race, Braden Lang, currently the gravel national champion. So he's another guy who had a great ride last weekend, who now he's maybe a little bit more on familiar territory. So he's another guy that we'll expect to be part of that conversation.
But looking here at the women's start line, I'm definitely seeing a few women, Sarah Sturm, Dani Shrewsbury, seeing a few of the mountain bike racers from of Maddie Monroe, Gwendolyn Gibson. I believe I heard that Kate Courtney was going to be racing today.
Yeah, I thought I heard a sighting, a Katie sighting, a Kate sighting in town here.
So definitely some women who have not been part of the Grand Prix are lining up today, and they're all lining up to win this race. So no matter if they've been part of the series all season long or not, they're all out here. They're all competitors. They're all racers. So they're all going to line up to win no matter what.
Looking at our men making their way out of town, and look at that. It's almost single file. It's a pretty good line from the front to the back, probably about a 10-second gap. And it's already starting to get under a little bit of pressure on that paved section that's getting them on out of town. And now back to the line here with our women. They're getting their final instructions here, making sure our Bronco Pace vehicle is ready to go. Escort them out of town here, and we'll be down to business relatively quickly. Cecily Decker on the front row there, riding for Pas Normal Studios. And Cecily, she's had a great series so far this year. She's really had some phenomenal results. A former skier that came over to bike racing to deal with a bit of a career-ending knee injury on the ski side, but she was your winner at Unbound and second place at Sea Otter. Also had second at Leadville. So non-starter, though, last week at Little Sugar. We know she had a little bit of a back issue.
Right.
So was trying to let that rehab itself, mend itself a little bit. So we'll see if that tactic worked out for her. Obviously, not starting last week kind of plays a significant role in her not contending for the overall lead at this point going into the final race. So,
sure, but also let's call it what it is. I think Sophia has dominated Little Sugar for the last few years.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, right. and Cecily does not come from a mountain bike background. As you mentioned, she was a downhill skier, an alpine skier. So let me tell you, her skills, from my experience, any skiers who've come over to cycling, their skills are phenomenal. They just know how to move with the terrain under them, whether it's two wheels or a pair of skis. And so she's an excellent bike handler, but Sophia has dominated Little Sugar. And I think the chances of Cecily beating Sophia at Little Sugar would have been pretty slim. So Cecily made that calculated decision to not start, knowing that today was going to be really important to still maintain that second place overall. and I think it could pay off today. I know she wants to win the race today, and to help her maintain that overall second place.
Well, we're watching our women roll out, and today's lead out is brought to you by the Bronco Wild Fund, driving a passion for the outdoors and helping preserve the places we ride. Also, a reminder, today's live coverage is presented by Orange Seal, the sealant trusted by pros to keep them rolling through the toughest terrain. And well, no better place here than Northwest Arkansas to bring our friends at Orange Seal into the mix. So our women are officially off and rolling. They've got their neutral start on the way out of town here as well. And just like the men, I suspect as soon as the flag drops and we're officially racing, this one's going to go full gas. The question now, and we kind of asked Sophia yesterday on the athlete panel, like, look, you've got this locked up. We know we've got some potential weather coming. Is that going to maybe affect your tactic in this race? Do you really need to go to the well here today just to prove a point really at the end of the day? And she was kind of honest about it. She knew that, a couple years ago she'd been in that situation and, went pretty hard for the first half of the race, then kind of eased up a little bit and tried to soak in the experience here at Big Sugar. And while she enjoyed that, she's a competitor through and through. So I think, you pin a number on, you're going to race your bike, right? That's just kind of how it goes, certainly at the elite level like that. So I think Sophia, as much as some riders want to think she might pull back a little bit and maybe not put herself in the mix. I think she's going to be very much in the mix there today. And maybe some of the other riders can kind of play off of that, with the tactical game out there, with Cecily, with Melissa, with Alexis, all vying to keep themselves on the podium, or in Alexis's case, get on that final podium.
Yeah, somebody else we haven't talked about who's had a phenomenal series and just season overall is Cecile Lejeune, who's sitting 5th overall in the Women's Lifetime Grand Prix Series. And, man, she comes from a road and triathlon background, so this was kind of her first year really dipping her toes deep into the gravel scene. Mountain biking has been new to her, so that was something she got her first mountain bike this season. So
that's a while, right?
Right, and so it's pretty crazy though to see some of these athletes who are coming over from road, from triathlon, from mountain bike, of course, who want to dip their toe into this off-road scene. Let's call it that, because the Lifetime Grand Prix is made up of 3 mountain bike races, 3 gravel races. So it's not just drop bar racing all season long, even though we do see some drop bar mountain bikes out there now.
Sure. Yeah.
So we only really see one flat bar mountain bike race, that being Little Sugar last weekend. But anyway, Cecile, I always get those two. It's so easy.
I do the same all year. Right?
So Cecile has really come into this series strong and really wanting a lot from herself and expecting a lot from herself. Last weekend at Little Sugar, she had some mechanical issues out on course that, played into her overall day, but she's such a fighter. She's a very tenacious rider. But I would expect that we also see something from her today because she comes from a road racing background. She has the tactical, knowledge of how today might play out a little bit more so than in the 100-mile races or those longer races. So 50 miles today is going to be a very tactical race. So far, we're not seeing anyone going to the front to really take on the responsibility of setting the pace. But I expect that sooner than later, the women's races is going to really light up, and we're going to see these riders strung out just like we have seen the men already off the start line.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of time before the fireworks happen. And again, we'll talk about it probably continually throughout the day, the differences with our 50-mile route versus the 100-mile route, in that, the 100-mile course that everyone's been so used to for the past few years here in Big Sugar, very twisty, big canopies that keep the visibility a little bit lower. And today we don't really have much of that at all. Honestly, it's a lot of very wide open, not a whole lot of canopy. And so you can see for great distances, and that makes it very simple. It's when you've always got that carrot right in front of you, the speed stays high. We've got a deep group of talented riders, so there's always going to be someone on those sections that can put in a little bit of dig at the front to keep that pace up. So it's going to be very, very hard for for some separation to occur. And wouldn't be surprised if honestly, if we see, obviously a lot of fireworks out there on the course and probably a very thinned out lead group, both for the men and the women. But I suspect they're going to probably be making their way back towards town with a reasonable sized group, and the fireworks are really going to happen in that 5, 6, 7 miles to go when they get to that kind of final pinch point there into the single track before the two final paved climbs on A Street, which, at that point you're really right on the edge of town here and very, very close to the finish.
Yeah, so we see the women still under the neutral start, so those motos are still leading the women out. And just want to mention real quick, we saw Natalie Quinn from the Synisca cycling team on the front of that peloton. Comes from a road background, who I expect also to see lighted up out on the roads today. So here we're back to the men. Man, are they going for it. You can see when they're like, their chest is down towards the stem. We see, I think this looks like a little bit of a separation already.
Yeah. Matt Beers obviously in there, the big man out of South Africa. And we wondered how he recovered from his crash and some stitches last week, I believe on his knee at Little Sugar. He barely made our podium appearance last week because he was trying to get some stitches at the Ready Care, and obviously kind of answers our question. He's feeling pretty good right now as he quickly dispatched. And there was a slightly bigger group there, but it looks like one or two riders falling off the pace as he gave a dig over that climb. So we'll try and identify the rest of these riders, but we don't see the field behind, so we know that that's at least a 15, maybe 20-second gap right now by what looks to be about 3 riders.
But I don't expect the peloton to give them much of a leash today. You can't in a 50-mile race. You obviously have less time to bring back any breaks that go up the road. So I think the peloton is going to keep a tighter leash on anything that does go up the road, or at least they're going to try to keep a tighter leash. So looks like the chase right now is kind of it's not really on just yet. We're seeing the guys spread out side to side across the road. That tells me that the pace of the chase group, we're still not seeing them come around that last corner there. So they're not too worried, but which surprises me because this is this with Matt Beers here in the front right now driving this pace. And I'm curious, there were 4 guys in this group, and one dropped off, and I'm curious if that was because he got dropped, or if he was dropping back to maybe help a teammate or a friend or whatever close that gap, because he saw how fast these guys were going and how determined they are to get that gap. So he's like, all right, I've got to go back and help somebody get back up to the front of this race.
Yeah, I tell you, I'm not surprised to see Matt drive, and he's currently sitting in 8th place overall, and looking at his point standing, 84 points, so he's not too far out of podium contention. Alexi Vermeulen right now sitting in 5th place with 89 points, so again, so many different things need to happen to make that work out. But Matt going on the offensive early, he knows he wants to get back into the Grand Prix next year. So if he can get himself into that top 5 overall, that's certainly one of the driving factors for him right now. But he's had some tough luck through the series, and he would love to walk out of here with a win. He's one of the strongest guys in the series year after year, and he would really love to take a win in this series. And I think today could be a great opportunity, because I would suspect this fits pretty squarely in his wheelhouse with the style of course. He's a bigger rider. There's not a lot of elevation. All the climbs are anywhere from about 20 seconds to maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes at the very most. So they couldn't really get any more favorable for a rider like Matt to be able to just put down unbelievable steady power all day long out here.
50 miles, he's like, I got this.
Yeah, right.
I can go from the gun. I'm not scared.
Right. It was like a training day out there for Matt as he as we now look and starting to see some separation on one of these sections of gravel out here, and a lot of separation for that matter, about 25 riders or so back.
Yeah, it looks like we're back to the women's race now, seeing a few women getting tailed off the back of the group. We'll see if there are any splits on the front end of this peloton once we can get a view from the front.
again, the riders on their way out of town, they head north for a little bit, head east just a little bit, and then they'll kind of go around the east side of Pea Ridge and make their way up into Missouri. They don't go as far into Missouri as our 100-mile course goes, obviously, and then they kind of skirt back west and then drop back down into the northwest Arkansas corridor there. So right now, riders still kind of making their way these first few miles, so just kind of inching their way northeast here towards the Pea Ridge area.
The roads look fast today. I think that I did hear a little bit of rain last night, so
right.
We woke up to dry or to wet roads this morning. I don't think it was enough to really shake up anything out on the roads other than to tamp things down, because it's been really dusty and dry here. So I think in a way that rain will have made just really, really fast conditions today.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think that little bit was super, super helpful, and all the riders are thinking if these conditions hold just like this is going to be great. But yeah, it's been such a dusty week here from Little Sugar on through the rest of this week, as we're once again looking, Matt just continuing to drive that train, and he's been taking longer pulls. You see him flick the elbow there, so he's not going to drive this entire train as we look for the rest of these riders to make their way through and share the pacemaking.
I would not want to be on Matt's wheel having to pull through on him right now. The pace he's going and the power that he can lay down. These guys are just hoping that they can stay with Matt for as long as they possibly can. That might be Riley Amos.
Yeah, we did hear he was going to be in town here, so.
Yep.
Oh, there you go.
I believe that is.
It's no surprise to see him up there at the front. And you know, obviously the riders in the Grand Prix know who Riley is, but they're not quite as familiar with him because he doesn't really do the series, but popped in here, and well, this is going to work out pretty well right now for him out there driving the train.
So Riley races on the Mountain Bike World Cup circuit. So I don't know that this could very well be his first gravel race ever. I mean, you know, a lot of people are riding gravel now, maybe not necessarily racing gravel, but coming from the mountain bike circuit, he spends most of his time over in Europe. So he's kind of, you know, in and out between the U.S. and Europe as he's with his team Trek over on the Mountain Bike World Cup circuit, but certainly no stranger to hard racing. This probably suits him maybe just a little bit better with the Mountain Bike World Cup races being roughly an hour and a half long. This is not going to be much longer than a mountain bike race. However, Kate Courtney proved us all wrong back at Leadville also, that they're all ready to do.
Right.
They're training for those long distances anyway, even though their races aren't that long. So Kate Courtney came out and absolutely dominated Leadville, which is a much longer race than she's ever, you know, really prepared for or used to when she's racing the World Cup circuit. So Riley, this will be, you know, he's going to be just fine in a race of this length today.
Yeah, and so, you know, going back to the tactical nuance of this, you know, one rider that probably has no interest in chasing, Keegan, right?
Yeah.
Like, why does Keegan want to chase? And I think Simone and Cam, I mean, those two might be having a discussion right now trying to figure out their play out there, because those two, you know, they don't really have a lot to lose to Matt right now in terms of the overall, but certainly the race win would be pretty sweet out there. So I think that other rider up there, Matt Wilson. Yeah, so Matt Wilson getting himself in the mix out of New Zealand, and Matt was one of the wild cards, right, that made his way into the Grand Prix and showcasing himself as having been a worthy addition. So good to see Matt up there.
Another Kiwi.
Right.
Cam Jones.
There you go.
Caleb Botchers, and another Kiwi athlete in the men's field. All three of those guys just really performing at the top of their level this year. There's something in the water down in New Zealand, I think.
I'm telling you, you've raced down in you live down there.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I've raced down there a little bit back in the day, and I think it's fair to say that they grow a different breed of bike racer down in New Zealand, and they are hard riders that can handle an amazing amount of different things thrown at them.
So here in the women's race, we're still seeing a few women kind of tailed off the back of this group. Doesn't look like it's too high speed just yet. You know, we'll go around this corner, we'll see it stretch out a little bit more. But at any time you see riders kind of side to side on the road, that tells you that the speed isn't super high pace. But looking now, I believe this is Maud Farrell taking charge at the front of this race. And again, when you see somebody who's like down in the drops, elbows bent, chest closer to the stem, that's an indication that they're going really hard. They're putting a lot of power into the pedals and making a big effort to really ramp up the speed.
Yeah, you can see Maud was just we were losing that camera for a hot second there. She was really kind of digging in there and starting to split things. And now you see things starting to be kind of lined out there at the front, and Still most riders in the mix. A couple you can see in the dust there. So obviously that moisture not tamping everything down, but doing a reasonable job out there of killing that dust just a little bit as we try and looks like trying to figure out. It does look like the women's field, I believe we're looking at right now. So no breakaways just yet in the women's field, as everyone's still all together.
And Maud is someone who's not part of the Lifetime Grand Prix series, so she's here just as a standalone, event today. And she'll have some teammates though, with like a Sarah Sturm, and by teammate I mean that a few of them share some of their bigger sponsors, and so it's not like they're teammates necessarily at every single race all through the year or whatnot, but again, there are certain athletes out here who are forming alliances and will be willing to go to the front for someone else who's maybe in the Grand Prix and helping them with their overall series placing.
Well, I'll tell you may be new to LTH, but it's no rookie. Created by Lifetime over 20 years ago, LTH delivers clean, science-backed supplements with pure, potent ingredients and third-party testing in every batch.
Yeah, so we were talking about the dry conditions that we have seen, here in the last few days as riders have been out on course. And if the rain does come, talking to Taylor Ledeen and Pete Stetna, who's not here today, but getting messages from him right now, that when the rain comes, typically that's when the flats happen the most.
Yeah.
And we all know that this Northwest Arkansas, you are susceptible to the kind of rock that's here. And as we saw at Little Sugar last week, if you didn't flat, you were one of the few, where you were definitely in the minority. And I would say we don't see that as much on the gravel roads necessarily, but it definitely happens. It can be a big factor that plays into the overall race. But if it does rain, that's when you typically start to see more flats happening. The dirt kind of gets packed down, and those embedded rocks get exposed, and those sharp rocks out here just wreak havoc on the tires.
Well, I'll tell you, that's one of the nice things about these three on the men's side being up the road, is you have a better sight line of what's in front of you. When you're in that big pack and you're just kind of following wheels, you don't really have your eyes on the terrain, and it's very easy to kind of just get unintentionally, of course, led into some of the bigger chunks of rock, the gravel, and the next thing you know, you're dealing with repairs, you're dealing with plugs, sidewall cuts, and that kind of thing. And to your point, it's a big part of the story here at Big Sugar. It's one of the big challenges we have down here, and the riders, it's bike racing. You have to hope for a little bit of luck. It plays into the story every bit as much as training and nutrition and all those other things that we normally think of in terms of bike racing. So still our same three leaders, and not sure if that's a headlight from another vehicle behind, or if that's just maybe just a follow vehicle, but I don't necessarily see any chasers yet. So we don't have a time gap just yet, but by eye, it's got to be about 30 seconds, I think, by now, maybe even a little bit more than that. So we're going to get a little more insight out on the course. We're going to check in with Nat Ross.
And the action's right here, the break. Beers is tucked into second wheel. Riley Amos following suit on that, and they have a good maybe 30 seconds it's looked like. High speeds rounding these corners, but that is an early break, which is exactly what's going to animate the race. They're out of sight already around this next corner, probably more than 30 seconds. These conditions right now are actually primo. The chase, it is a big bulk. This is basically got a chase of 3 going in, and they're in sight. Noted on this right-hand corner, none of our top 5 riders that are in position have made these 2 breaks, but that's okay. They're taking their space around this corner, and we've already got some problems. It looks like Weir's coming in, wheel change, and these are high-speed corners, 2 at a time. Let's go see Brendan where he's got a air canister out, rear low tire. We're about 4 seconds into his change. And it was low. He's trying to find where that gap is. He's got it pinched. Sealant is doing its thing. The plug's going in. So this is a Dynaplug. Okay, he's sealed. Now he's going to put the CO2 in, and he'll be on his chase mission soon. So at this point, a little bit more air in that rear tire. And these punctures, that's what is going to happen as the day goes on. He had enough air in the beginning. He's got a minute now to chase, and we're already seeing the separation. So sending him out in the field next.
All right, well, that's obviously unfortunate for Brennan out there trying to get himself together. Nobody wants to get a puncture, especially in the 50-mile event, right? Like, that's always going to be a bit of a challenge out there.
Yeah, so Brennan Wirtz there with that flat, getting, kind of not the fastest fix right there, and a minute or whatever his gap is now to chase back to that group at the speeds they're going today with such a short race is going to be a real challenge. So Brennan Wirtz definitely has his work cut out for him, but as a former U.S. gravel national champion, he certainly has the power to do that. It just kind of depends on what's going to be happening in front of him and the speed of that chase group with the likes of Matt Beers, Matt Wilson, and Riley Amos off the front of the race in the men's side.
The faster that group is going, the harder it's going to be for Brennan, and the more risk you have to take. And then, that circle brings us back around to that chunky rock, right? Like, you start taking big risks, start taking some maybe questionable lines through turns to get a little more speed, and it's going to be a big challenge. I wouldn't want to be in that position right now, but hopefully Brennan can make that work.
Yeah, and you mentioned it earlier, the advantage of these 3 guys off the front right now is that they have a clear sight line, where what happens a lot at these gravel races is that when the speeds get really high and it's strung out and you're in this long straight, pace line kind of thing, you don't have any visibility of what is in front of you. You are just trusting the people in front of you to either point things out, and they're going so fast. No one's really pointing things out unless they're dangerous, right? So you're not seeing, no one's pointing out the sharp rocks
right.
or whatever that might be in the road. And so it's just a bit of trust and luck when everything is strung out. And we saw, was it last year or 2 years ago, that Matt Beers was a victim to, just being in a really fast, tight pace line without any visibility of what was coming, and I think just hit a rock wrong or something. It was to no one's fault, I don't think, what happened that day, but it definitely took him down really hard. And so it's no surprise that, he knows what can happen on these roads out here in Northwest Arkansas. So I would bet that he initiated this break today, and then everybody else was just trying to hang on. And now we see Riley Amos, Matt Wilson, and Matt Beers still trading turns here at the front of this race.
You can see it looks like some communication going on up there. Riley looking quite a bit to his right there as he swung off. So maybe having a little bit of conversation. These guys trying to suss things out, make sure everybody's working together, everybody's committed. Big Matt down on the drops now, trying to get as aerodynamic as he can because they're just moving along at such a high rate of speed right now.
Yeah, and for those who, aren't super familiar with bike racing, as you see somebody flicking their elbow, what that indicates is that they're pulling off and they want the next person to come through. So right now, these three guys are trading turns, and that means the person on the front of this group of three is taking the brunt of the wind. They're doing the most work, where the other two are sitting in the draft, getting a little bit of a breather. Then you see the flick of the elbow. The next person comes around, goes to the front to take on the brunt of the wind. And so you're just giving each other a little bit of time to rest.
Well, our three leaders still working a pretty nice advantage right now, as we just can barely see some of the follow vehicles behind. We'll get that time split for you right now. But Matt Beers, Riley Amos, and Mr. Wilson out there driving the train right now.
Every morning you make a promise to yourself to push harder, to go further, to give it your best. Years ago, I made a promise too. When I discovered supplements weren't what they claimed to be, I promised to create something worthy of your standards. Something as committed to excellence as you are, because extraordinary effort deserves extraordinary support. LTH, the most rigorously tested supplements in the industry.
Before KONs, real-time data, watts, before we normalized watts, before zone 2, 3, or 4, before we found pain in caves. Whoops, not those caves. There was fax machines, dongles, flip phones, and pagers.
Well, pagers don't really play into our story, but I had one, and I never missed a group ride. I'm Dirk Friel, founder of Training Peaks. It's hard to believe that in the beginning we had to use a dongle to download our data, then dial up to email it to our coach. Haven't heard that sound in a while. That was where we started 25 years ago. Look at us now. Now we've got athletes and engineers like Mindy, Tom, Frank, and Joe. Enjoy your run. At Training Peaks, we are all committed to building the world's best training platform for coaches and athletes, to elevate your workouts and make the coach-athlete relationship more meaningful. Group ride tomorrow. You in?
Let's do it.
But it would just be numbers?
No, it's like slow rolling text message.
Okay.
Be the best that you never had.
Every LTH formula is designed with performance in mind. Pure, potent, and always third-party tested. Built by Lifetime, trusted by athletes, and made to help you live your healthiest life. And unleash your potential with Training Peaks, the complete training solution trusted by the world's best athletes. Whether you're chasing a podium or just chasing progress, Training Peaks connects athletes and coaches to plan, track, and crush goals together. Learn more and try it for free at trainingpeaks.com/lifetime. We've got a couple, I believe there's some chasers out here right now.
It's Brendan Johnston. And just trying to get a visual of the second rider, checking that's Kobe Freeburn.
Those two having just a little chat before diving very cautiously into that quick right-left right now. So 2 riders now on the chase. Freeburn taking his pull on the front. Let's see if we can't see the leading trio in front of him. Back to our trio right now. Getting through the trees there just a little bit, but apparently these 3 riders obviously working very well together. Each one of them would love to have a win. Of course, Riley Amos not doing a whole lot of these races, not involved in the series, so I don't think anybody too concerned with him at being out in front at the moment. They're probably willing to let him ride just a little bit, but I'll tell you what, I'd love to be a fly on the wall of the conversation in the field, right, of what's going on with Cam Jones, Simone Pilot, Toby Road, even Alexi and Vermeulen and Braden Lang, those couple of the riders that are just fighting for those bubble spots for the top 5 overall to move on to next year. And Andrew Lesperance, who had a great ride last weekend.
Yes.
Probably his career best ride in the Lifetime Grand Prix. It was great to see him have such a great ride as well, and that's got him up into 7th. We saw so much shuffling after Little Sugar last week. Coming into it, Cam had been, I believe, in 6th place coming into it, but by virtue of a good ride, moved himself up into that tie for 2nd. Lesperance moving himself up. Braden cementing himself up there as well.
Yeah, we're back to the women here, and we're definitely seeing a lot of splits happening, and it looks like this is more at the back end of the field, so hard to say yet what's happening on the front end. Hoping to get a visual from the front side right now, but I think, a lot of, obviously we're seeing these fields are pretty big, so, they're comprised of more than just the Lifetime Grand Prix Series athletes, so some of them, aren't as used to what's going on or haven't been racing with these women all year long, but also don't have, money in the overall standings today, but still out here racing their bikes. And this Paul Normal racing team, they have a few Devo riders out here as well. So some of these riders are just kind of getting up to speed, trying to figure out what it's like to race with the elite riders who, just have so much more experience and speed and fitness and just a lot of years under their belt. So doing what they can to kind of learn and get an experience from being here with all of the elite riders and keep growing to take it into the next year.
Yeah, the money's such a big factor out here. It's not just the overall money. New this year was each individual event has a prize purse of 5 places with $5,000, $4,000, $3,000, $2,000 and $1,000 to your top 5. So that's played a significant factor into the way these races get played out as well. So a lot of riders thinking, again, a rider like Riley is like, look, I could get a great payday out of this, right? I'm not in it for the points, but it's a potential great payday out there. And I kind of like it because it just makes it all that much more complex, right? And it layers it in. It makes the races a little more tactical because it's hard to figure out what rider is concerned about what out there sometimes. I mean, obviously, we're at the end of the year, and in terms of the Lifetime Grand Prix, this is the one race that every Grand Prix athlete has to do, right?
Yes.
It's we allow one drop throughout the series, and that's how we get to our point standing. Once we get through that, I believe the 4th race, you get to drop your worst performance, which helps out, and we do that because mechanicals are obviously a part of it, right? We've been talking already about the potential for mechanicals here with flat tires, but flats can happen anywhere. Mechanical issues or sometimes riders have a bad day or they just have some other prior commitment that they can't make a certain race. So by having that one drop race, it kind of it basically highlights the true performance value of every rider at those races. So
rather than penalizing anyone
exactly,
for something
right?
that might go wrong
Exactly.
in a race.
So it makes it a little more fair across the board out there. So it's kind of a great way to do things, I think.
Yeah, but to your point again, for the prize purse for the overall series, the prize purse for each individual race, that means there's the race within the race within the race.
Yeah,
it goes down the list of how different people attack the race today, both figuratively and literally.
Right.
And so what their overall plan is, are they just coming out to win a little bit of prize money, put it in their back pocket to help pay for their expenses if they're not on a team who's covering all of that for them, or are they coming out here for all the big bucks of what the overall prize purse pays out? So again, and with just a 50-mile race today, I am still really surprised that we're seeing these three guys off the front. I'd love to know what the time gap is right now and who's chasing. We did see a couple chasers, but it's really hard to say what that time gap is. But my point being that those guys that are in the peloton, we're not seeing anyone in the top four. We're not seeing the Keegan Swensons or the Cam Jones, the Simone Pilot, or the Toby Rhodes really making their move today. And I think that they're marking each other right now. They've got to keep an eye on one another right now.
Exactly. And the three riders up here, they're all experienced enough to know that could be part of the equation, right? And, attack a little early, catch people off guard while they're still kind of working out math scenarios in their head, and get that gap, go on the offensive, because when you talk about where the pressure is, whether you're off the front or whether you're in the field, to me, the pressure is always on the chase, right? Because it's simple math. You've got to go faster. Mm-hmm. And to go faster, you have to take more risk. And with that risk, it gets a little bit sketchy out there. So I think these three riders, you go really, really hard for 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes, and then you settle into – it's certainly not an easy tempo, right? But you settle into a good rhythm. Yeah,
you've established that gap, and now the onus is on the chase group, as you said, to have to go faster in order to catch the chase. And these guys right now so far are looking like they're taking their turns. They're doing an equal amount of work. We'll see how long that continues. But I'll have to say I'm really impressed to see Riley Amos, especially in this group from the Trek Factory Racing team, who's done a whole season of mountain bike World Cup racing. So to see him come out here, try his hand at some gravel racing. Of course, Matt Wilson, who is a wild card entry into the Lifetime Grand Prix this year. He is such a strong rider. Another guy from New Zealand. So Cam Jones, Caleb Botcher's another one, and Matt Wilson out here, spending a whole year in the U.S., even though they're from New Zealand, making their home here. Same with Matt Beers from South Africa, making his home here in the U.S. while they're racing the Lifetime Grand Prix, maybe with a 1 or 2 trips back home. But those are long trips back home for those guys.
So we actually were talking to Matt Beers about that a little bit yesterday on the athlete panel, and he said he goes back to South Africa 4 times through the season, right? And if you've ever done that, it's a 24-hour trip each way, literal 24-hour trip each way. And talked a little bit about how just that component is a fatiguing factor. And look, this is the final race for our Lifetime Grand Prix, but it's not the final race of the season. Matt and several riders, I think, in the women's field are heading actually down to South Africa very quickly upon the conclusion of this for a stage race. I think it's a 5 or 7 day stage race down there. And I mean, for Matt, it's like, well, I'm going home. I'm going to do that stage race, and he's probably done. But the Energizer Bunny, Simone Pilot. I mean, if you pull up some stats on him, the amount he's raced on the road and on mountain bike and gravel this year is kind of mind blowing. And he's another rider heading down there as well. So these riders trying to compartmentalize all that fatigue and all that travel, all that time on planes, trains, and automobiles all season long. And it certainly comes into play at one point or another out there. But obviously, Matt Beers not feeling it right now today, is out there driving the train and still looking very solid as we're again looks like the back of our women's field. So,
Yeah, right now, as you said, this is the women's field and a few more riders. This rider getting tailed off the back, I think, as the speeds continue to increase. But going back to your point about, the amount of racing, traveling, everything these riders are doing in a season, sure, the Lifetime Grand Prix is comprised of 6 races. And those races alone are incredibly fatiguing. Unbound 200 to 200-mile gravel race. And, you know, we've got all the other 5 races sprinkled in throughout the season. But these racers and these athletes are also traveling to other races, whether they're in the U.S. or over in Europe or Africa or wherever it might be, whether they're other off-road races or they're road races. So these racers are traveling extensively throughout the year, doing a lot of travel and a lot of time on planes, trains, automobiles. However they have to get there, they're making it happen, and they're really digging deep. So by this time of the year, these athletes are tired, but they're putting it all out on the line today. As you said, a lot of them are going to go do a 7-day stage race in South Africa after this. I can't even imagine having the energy to get on a plane after this and go straight there with a lot of travel. It's like a 30-hour travel day or something like that. So, you know, to finish off the season like that is going to be an incredibly exciting but also incredibly exhausting way to finish the season. They will all deserve a huge off-season break. But right here we're seeing, you know, the women's race continuing to navigate all these roads in Northwest Arkansas. You can see that right now the skies are not looking too bad. So we'll see. Hopefully the rain holds off until the riders are done with their racing today. But keep in mind that, you know, we are watching the pros here, but there are age group races also going off behind these races, as well as a 25-mile race. So we've got a lot of people out on course today, making sure that they're all safe and getting back to the finish line before any potential severe weather hits.
Well, we've got a great media crew out there following the course, giving us live updates and providing us all kinds of content. A reminder that our live coverage today is presented by Orange Seal, the sealant trusted by pros to keep them rolling through the toughest terrain, especially here in Northwest Arkansas. So a big shout out to our partner, Orange Seal, for the live coverage here today.
And back to the men here on a little bit of pavement that we're seeing. Not a whole lot on the courses here in Northwest Arkansas. And as soon as I say that, they're back onto a gravel road.
Just these little transition pieces here and there, right? And it's almost like maybe it's this kind of like little micro recovery section. Sit up, stretch the back a little bit, because one of the things of this course, right, you look at the profile and it's only about 3,000 feet of elevation over 53, 54 miles, but it's just this constant up and down, up and down, up and down. So you're always really on the gas a good bit, and that requires, you know, a lot of power. So your whole core, your back, your glutes are all engaged, and every now and then you've got to give them a little bit of a break. You've got to be able to sit up, kind of flex them a little bit so that you can re-engage. You know, it's not one of those races where you've got a lot of long downhill sections where you can coast and get that recovery. There's minimal time out here today where you're not pedaling, and that's you know, a lot of people look at the course profile and they think, oh, it's flat, it's boring, it's this or that. No, it's just it's a different dynamic, right? And it lends itself to a slightly different style of racing, but I think it's every bit as exciting, right?
And I would say that's pretty true in gravel racing. The course today is kind of typical of most gravel races where you're not getting a lot of rest. You know, as over the years, as I have trained for, you know, some gravel races, the training that I was doing, we see some deer running through the field here with the men. But the training that I was doing for those races was just sustained power on the pedals with a little bit of efforts on the climbs, because there's just not a lot of rest time in most of the courses. Sure, there's some elevation, but they're not extended descents where you can really sit up and take a breath. In fact, I would say a lot of these descents are almost, they're pretty stressful. One, you're in a pack with a lot of people around you. Two, you're on a gravel road with a bunch of rocks that are flying around. You can hear it in the group with rocks tinging off, you know, different bikes and wheels and all that stuff. You're getting hit, you know, whether it's an elbow or a rock, and you have little visibility. So that stress of not being able to just sit up and you know, coast down a descent adds to the overall fatigue for the day. So, you know, these 30-second downhills, you know, maybe it's a minute, something like that. They're not able to just totally relax. They're almost more stimulated mentally because of everything that's going on and that you have to take in to make sure you're staying safe and not hitting the ground or not missing somebody that goes off the front of the race.
You know, kind of another interesting component that I'm noticing out here that may be factoring in is, it's been a warm week here, right, in northwest Arkansas, maybe a little warmer than normal for this time of the year. You can see as we were passing through, some of those wooded areas, fall is literally just starting to hit here. The leaves have not come off the trees yet, so the leaves aren't covering the ground and kind of helping disguise a lot of what's on the ground. So that's got to be a little bit more helpful out here for these riders is, that it's a simple thing, right? But it kind of adds to the challenge as we normally have the ground, the gravel roads covered with leaves out there. But you can see the trees still pretty full out here. So hopefully that's making things a little bit easier. Looks like two riders, maybe just a little bit of a gap in our women's race, but no concerted effort as the rest of the group just very quickly coming back onto the wheel. And
yeah, that's Michaela Thompson that was on the front right there. I'm guessing what was happening is she and the other rider that was with her probably made an effort to go off the front, and when they saw the peloton, that break or that gap between them and the main group not really getting any bigger, they might have just chosen to sit up a little bit.
Yeah, things still kind of just rolling along. Nobody willing to take the reins too much in the women. You can kind of read the body language. Everyone up on their hoods. They're spread out across that lane of the road. So we shall see as our women unfold.
Hi, I'm Sarah Sturm, professional cyclist and Road ID ambassador. As we all know, cycling is inherently dangerous no matter who you're riding with or where you are. Just as important as my helmet, I put my road ID on before a ride. Even though I do a ton of social riding, I ride with friends, I ride with family, I do most of my riding alone. I like to have my road ID because it gives me a peace of mind. It's simple and it's smart. I hope I never need to use it, but I'm really happy that I have it.
It's getting harder and harder to tell what's real, what's fake, animated, and artificial. But when it comes to soda, it's real easy. Zevia is a naturally delicious soda with zero artificial colors, flavors, or sweeteners, and zero sugar. A choice that's clear. Time to get that fake out of here and try something real. Zevia. Delicious, not suspicious.
What will you do in your lifetime? It's an interesting question. Because what you do in your life is answered by asking, what will you do with your time? The thing is, you get to decide. And what you choose to do in the moments, months, and years you have been given become the answer to the question, what will you do in your lifetime?
You already track how far you've gone, the forecast each day, your packages, and your sleep. It's time for an easy way to track your glucose. Meet Stello, the powerful glucose biosensor available without a prescription that tracks glucose 24/7 to reveal how food, exercise, and even sleep can affect your glucose, helping you become a healthier you. Join the personal health revolution today at Stello.com.
If you're looking for a family getaway, then look to Arkansas, where you can get on bikes, hike scenic trails, visit free family-friendly museums, enjoy great food, and the hospitality you can only find in the natural state. Visit Arkansas.com to pick your path and find your adventure. Train right with Glucose Insights from Stello. See how food, exercise, and more affect you so you can crush your goals. Well, back with our live coverage here, looking, looks like maybe another group kind of splitting off here. It looks like we've got about 5 or 6 riders. We're trying to figure out which group. I believe this is our men's race that we're looking at. So maybe a couple chasers have joined up. We'll try and get a close-up view there. But remember, we had 3 riders that have been off the front. Riley Amos, Matt Beers, and Matt Wilson had that bit of a gap together, working very smoothly. It looks like this is going to be those riders joined by a handful more riders. So we'll try and identify the rest of this group. But we'll see if there's any favorites in here, right? We've been kind of waiting for the moves from Cam Jones, from Simone Pilot, from Toby Rode, and we haven't seen a whole lot of action from them just yet. So I kind of wonder if this is maybe the beginning of their efforts here on the front.
Yeah, I mean, for those guys, it kind of depends. Are they looking to win the race today, or is the overall series more important for them today? So we're seeing these 7 riders right now, and
somebody not happy with the formation. Looks like maybe a little bit of an attack there that went up the right, trying to thin things out a little bit. And sometimes you think more is better in the lead group, right? But that's not always the case. Sometimes riders, they want to sit on, they don't want to contribute to the pace, and in a race this short, you kind of can't give that one away.
Yeah, it really kind of depends on what the chemistry of the group is, and that's why a lot of times in races, there might be a small break that goes up the road. Everyone kind of looks around, they figure out who's in that break, and somebody in the main group will say, I don't like that. There is somebody that is dangerous, and I wanted that to come back. Here we see a rider on the side of the road. Hard to see what that number is right now, but someone looks like fixing a flat. Probably plugging their tire, and what that means.
I was just going to say, it looked like Michael Garrison out there, and sure enough, that's Michael Garrison with a bit of a problem, and that's a tough one because he did Little Sugar last week and was riding quite well. Unfortunately, clipped a tree with his handlebars, hurt his back, had to drop out, but he had a big bullseye on this one because this race, I think, kind of right in his wheelhouse, especially at the 50-mile mark, right? Because Michael's been really tearing up the criterium scene this year. So, a 2.5-ish hour gravel race would have been right up his alley.
Yeah, not much longer than a crit. I mean, most criterium races are roughly an hour, maybe a little bit more. So not too much more to go today, but seeing him on the side of the road with the speeds today, during a 50-mile race, it will be hard for him to catch back on. Hard to say exactly where he was, if he's off the back of the race or if he was kind of in between some chase groups and may get caught from somebody behind, and therefore that gives him, people to work with to try to get back to another group. But either way, anyone out here experiencing a flat is going to have a hard time, or any type of mechanical is going to have a hard time getting back to the group, just because of the nature of the racing today with how short and fast it's going to be.
Yeah, you just saw Riley Amos come off the pace there and stretch that lower back just a little bit on the descent. So again, that underscores how challenging this course is right now. Just another one of these just little death by 1,000 cut climbs here, 20 seconds from the bottom to the top, and kind of max powers we see. It looks like Matt Beers driving that one still right now. So Matt Beers on the front, Riley Amos in third position there, it looks like, and then Matt Wilson in there. And our next group, this looks like it's going to be our women's group, and trying to see if we've got a little formation there as well. But again, things looking like they're still, maybe we've got a group of about 15.
Yeah, and this is interesting. We see Lauren Stevens on the back of this group, another rider who's not part of the Lifetime Grand Prix. She had initially decided not to be part of the series. She thought she was going to miss Big Sugar because she was going to go to the UCI Gravel World Championship. She, in the end, decided not to do that, and therefore is here this weekend because, as you said earlier, to be part of the series, you have to race Big Sugar. And so if anyone had the intention early on of missing Big Sugar, then there was no reason to even be a part of the series. So with her being on the back in the Stars and Stripes as the current now 3-time U.S. National Gravel Champion, it was interesting to see that she also had a hydration pack on.
Yeah, I noted that too, right?
Yeah, so, yeah, you know, with just one aid station out here in the 50-mile, I mean, to me that indicates that she's definitely not going to be stopping. Not that anyone would be stopping, but she may not even have anyone in the feed. I don't know. So she just needed to have everything that she needed for the day on her body or her bike.
Yeah, and I mean, if you can avoid mechanicals and punctures and that sort of thing, that's not a bad way to go, right? Avoid the mayhem and the little bit of a slowdown that those aid stations serve up, and just be able to kind of stay focused, stay present in the effort out there, and not let that get disrupted.
Another woman that I saw in the group there from the Siniska cycling team was Natalie Quinn. I mentioned seeing her at the start line. She, again, is someone who's not part of the Lifetime Grand Prix, and that's because she spends the season in Europe racing on the road, doing, you know, some World Tour races, other continental level races, and she is extremely experienced tactically. She's a very strong rider, so not surprised to see her kind of up in that sort of lead group or whatever, how it's been thinned out on the women's side. And I expect she is an incredibly aggressive rider as well. She's one of those riders who does not like to sit in the races in Europe. She's constantly in those early breaks, and you know, sometimes, you know, it's a death march going in the early break, and then other times it pays off. So I expect that we'll see her racing hard today. And here we are back with the men's leaders.
And Matt Beers still doing a lot of driving. It's kind of interesting, right? Like every time he's at the front, he's generally up on the hoods, making a little transition to the drops. But every time he's sitting on the wheels, he's got to be in the drops because he's such a tall rider, right? That to maximize the draft, he's got to get in the drops. He's got to get a little bend in the elbows there to get any sort of break behind Riley and Matt Wilson there.
Right, and for, you know, again, anyone not super familiar with bike racing, when we're talking about being in the draft, that just means that you are not the person on the front, basically. And you're sitting behind in the slipstream of the rider in front of you, where you are able to conserve a little bit more energy, where the person on the front is taking the brunt of any sort of wind. They're pushing a lot harder, whereas if you're second or third wheel in this group, you're able to conserve a little bit, you're able to take a little bit of a breather, and then when it's your turn to come around to the front, then it's your turn to step on the gas a little bit more, let that person who is just on the front come around and sit on and get in the draft. And as you mentioned, in the case of Matt Beers, he is a tall guy, so for him to get any draft from these other two, he really does have to get low to get the benefit of the draft.
You can see the terrain out there. You can see kind of keeping our eye on the clouds, right? In certain perspectives, it doesn't look that bad out there, but if we get more of a bit of a straightforward shot, or even off to the front left, you can see those dark clouds up in that upper left-hand corner. So, you know, that weather, again, that we've been talking about for the last few days, it's certainly on its way out here today, hence our 50-mile edition here for our pros. You know, we started talking about this on Wednesday. Unfortunately, the potential and the conversation started to get a little more in-depth on Thursday, and then certainly yesterday, as we realized something might have to be done. And you can see as you look to the sky ahead what's going on there. And Matt Beers dropping off the pace just a little bit, maybe trying to just dig through his pockets, get a little bit of food there. I don't think that's necessarily indicative of anything. Yeah, just reaching into his pocket, trying to stay out of the way, going for his pocket to get a little food. And, you know, we've been racing for just a little bit over an hour or so. So, you know, kind of perfect time to put some more carbs, some more sugar into the tank. And, you know, it doesn't matter if the race is an hour or if it's 5 or 6 hours. You've got to eat every 30 to 45 minutes or so. You've got to keep some sugar going in. You've got to keep some carbohydrates going in. And, I mean, honestly, maybe a little more so when the pace is this high. You start to burn a little bit more sugar. So these guys are going to stay on top of it to the point where you might be like, man, why are they eating so much? But, you know, if we're averaging 22, maybe even up as much as 23 miles an hour, you know, I mean, you've got to really keep that fuel tank going. Once again, a reminder, our live coverage today brought to you by Orange Seal, and we are now going to throw to Nat Ross.
Orange Seal out in the field. We are at the tech vehicle, and guess what? Mile 29, Whistling Springs Brewery. There's a sharp right-hand turn that they encounter and a nice downhill of chunk. We can see rounding this corner, these speeds have been about 30 miles an hour. You guys have been tracking it. The highest speeds rolling into this, and then positioning into a narrow downhill. And this is that point where they're probably not taking the feeds. Okay, Wilson tosses the bottle. Beers leads him down. Riley Amos, talked to him last night. He was ready to not even take the feeds because he knew this was going to be a sprint. That's quite the gap going into this. These guys have exactly what they need to make it. So if you're closing this gap at this point, you're not stopping in this aid station and you are firing on through. The pace on this pavement and tarmac is a nice reprieve. So Matt grabbing that bottle, perfect time to do it. This is mile 29. This is the business end. Still waiting for that chase to come through. I know we had a local in there, Oakley Griffith, so someone that actually knows the roads is really nice to have out there because this course is pandemonium from this point on. If they're going through and expecting a feed, this is a neutral support, as well as we've had a lot of pro mechanics and Swannies go down into that zone, but they're ready to head to the finish after this. It is such a short, condensed, chaotic race that the racers are taking on the nutrition on their own and have to take care of all the elements. Looks like our chase is quite a ways behind, so somebody up front, if it was Beers or Wilson, because Riley's just sitting in doing his thing, has been putting down some wattage. So the lead moto has gone through for this chase group, and this chase is going to be one long string with several groups coming into it. Orange helmet up in the front, and our 4 riders pacing, one of the ones along with check out Finsty leading this downhill, Griffin in there as well, pacing. So 3 riders in this group that know this terrain trying to get away. And here is Keegan and Posse. Really tight corner. You can see Simone going into that. The brakes are on at top of this. The bottom of this feed zone is going to be insane. So they do a sharp left. So let's go back to you, Bill and Meredith.
All right, back here in the studio, and I'll tell you what, I'm enamored with how fast we're going. About an hour and 10 minutes of race time as they hit that one tech zone, that feed zone on the course, 29.7 miles in an hour and 10 minutes. We're getting word that just about a 2-minute gap right now.
I started the stopwatch as I saw those guys, the lead group come through, and then stopped it when the chase group of 3 came through, and by my calculation, it's about 1:35, give or take a little bit. But yeah, and then the main peloton was not that far behind that first chase. So I think we'll see those guys come back together. But here we are back to the women's race, and we're seeing Lauren Stevens go on the attack here, starting to string things out. She is not a rider who likes to just sit in and watch the race unfold. She likes to, for her best defense is offense, so she's going to take this race and make it into what she wants it to be today.
Looks like Scarta, Melissa Rollins in there, Cecily Decker also in that mix. And, Lauren Stevens, she still does a lot of road. I know you alluded to she had been a former pro on the road. She did Tour de Bloom out in Oregon this year, and I think she win every stage or almost every stage, and she's done another among other road events that she's done this year with a high degree of success. So no surprise to see her out there. So Haley Smith, Michaela Thompson, we got Ellen Campbell in there, Courtney Sherwell
Samara
also
Shepherd
in the mix. So.
Yeah, it looks like that didn't really go anywhere. The other riders were on that pretty quick to bring it back. But I would also say that, Lauren Stevens is a rider who likes to go long. She's kind of like I'd say kind of a Keegan in that way, that like we were talking about earlier, where the longer races might suit her a little bit better. So it is in her best interest if she doesn't want it to come down to a sprint necessarily. And here we see the men going out of the Whistling Springs Brewery. So they've already gotten their feeds. If they did take anything from their crew, we don't know, but they're coming out of the brewery now, and they're in the tail end of the race today. And Yeah, with a minute 35 gap back to the chasers, you know, they don't have a whole lot of time to bring that back. So we're going to see what the group decides to do. But again, they don't necessarily, the top four don't need to win the race today. So that's why they're maybe content to let these guys go up the road.
So once again, our three leaders on the men's side, we've got Matt Beers, Riley Amos, and Matt Wilson. They've been out in front for quite a while. Our gap, just about a minute and 40 seconds back to the chasing group.
Before KONs, real-time data, watts, before we normalize watts, before zone 2, 3, or 4, before we found pain in caves.
Whoops, not those caves.
There was fax machines, dongles, flip phones, and pagers.
Well, pagers don't really play into our story, but I had one, and I never missed a group ride. I'm Dirk Friel, founder of Training Peaks. It's hard to believe that in the beginning we had to use a dongle to download our data, then dial up to email it to our coach. Haven't heard that sound in a while. That was where we started 25 years ago. Look at us now. Now we've got athletes and engineers like Mindy, Tom, Frank, and Joe. Enjoy your run. At Training Peaks, we are all committed to building the world's best training platform for coaches and athletes to elevate your workouts and make the coach-athlete relationship more meaningful. Group ride tomorrow. You in?
Let's do it.
But it would just be numbers?
No, it's like slow rolling text message.
Okay.
Every morning you make a promise to yourself to push harder, to go further, to give it your best. Years ago, I made a promise too. When I discovered supplements weren't what they claimed to be, I promised to create something worthy of your standards. Something as committed to excellence as you are, because extraordinary effort deserves extraordinary support. LTH, the most rigorously tested supplements in the industry.
Along came a glacier and turned a land of ice into a world of wonder. And while we love getting out there, we need to protect and preserve what's out there so that it inspires just as much awe in those who discover it next. Introducing the Bronco Wild Fund, created by Ford to connect people to the outdoors responsibly.
Unleash your potential with Training Peaks, a complete training solution trusted by the world's best athletes. Whether you're chasing a podium or just chasing progress, Training Peaks connects athletes and coaches to plan, track, and crush goals together. Learn more and try it for free at trainingpeaks.com/a-lifetime. And the Bronco Wild Fund, powered by Ford Motor Company, helps protect and preserve public lands like forests and trails across the United States. A portion of the profits from every Bronco sold supports programs focused on responsible outdoor access, conservation, and public land stewardship. Learn more at BroncoWildFund.com. All right, nice aerial shot there of northwest Arkansas, southwest Missouri area here that comprises our 50-mile course, what we're racing here today, the final stop of the 2025 Life Time Grand Prix here at Big Sugar Gravel. And it's been a great week here. We've been here since last weekend with Little Sugar and wrapping things up here with Big Sugar. Looking again at our leaders here. And the last gap we had was about a minute and 40 or so. So Riley Amos, Matt Beers, and Matt Wilson, the three riders that have been driving the train. The chasers, Payson McKelvin, Russ Finsterwald, and Griffin Easter are the three riders that we know of on the chase right now.
And we were just talking about during the break the pace of the race today. What did you say? In the first, they covered 30 miles in an hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah, they were on the exit of the one and only aid station, which was 29.7 miles at an hour 10 on the clock. I mean, we knew it was going to be fast, right? But, you know, I would have figured, 24 miles an hour, right? Like, that's going to be fast on the gravel bikes. Yeah, we're gonna exceed that right now. So we may well see them fighting for the victory coming into downtown Bentonville here in under 2 hours. It's a very feasible thing to consider at the moment.
Yeah, especially because the last little bit coming back into town, even though it is a little bit hillier by, you know, standards for the course today. We see a lot of undulation in this course, no long extended climbs, but coming back into the finish is where I would say we see a little bit more of the longer climbs, but they are on pavement. So they're still going to be fast, and I agree. I think we're going to see this race come in just around 2 hours today.
So just about an hour and 20 minutes covered for the men, an hour and 10 minutes covered for the women out there, as we can see the silhouette of the helicopter out there bringing us some great live coverage. Again, our live coverage is courtesy of our friends at Orange Seal, getting behind that for the day.
So if we talk about what's happening in the men's race, you know, today, it's hard to see. We have a solo rider here.
Interesting.
I'm guessing this is in the women's race. Hard to tell just yet.
Hard to tell from this angle out there. I can't. For a moment, I thought maybe that was actually the men's side. I thought maybe that was Riley going off the front on his own, but we're going to hone in just a little bit on that. That looks like a Pas Normal jersey, I believe. Yeah. Could that be Decker making a move? Because remember, Cecily Decker has that great fight going on with Melissa Rollins in the battle for second and third.
Yeah, definitely. And just hearing word from Lauren Hall, who's out on course, that they're hearing thunder out at the aid station. So while it's here from the studio, we look outside and the skies don't look that bad. We know that the storm is coming. And again, even though the pro athletes out here today are going to finish this course in just astonishingly fast times, again, it's getting everybody off the course today safely. So not just the pros, but all the amateurs who are out there racing in both the 50 and the 25-mile races. So getting everyone off the course safely today is most important. And yeah, we don't have a number yet on this rider off the front, but it's definitely a Pas Normal racing rider. And so we'll see as soon as we can get in a little bit closer who this rider might be. But I could be Emily Newsom.
Yeah, trying to hone in on that number there. Emily, so yeah, we're getting word that it is Emily Newsom up there driving the chase. So great ride for Emily to be up there with the solo lead. So we'll have to see if we can't get what the split is. She's got a moto with her, so that would indicate that the gap is relatively substantial to have a rider. So yeah, we just see that moto. So only about maybe that's going to be about a 10, 12-second gap right now. And you see a little bit of activity there at the front, but you still see the riders kind of ballooned out there in the middle of the group. And again, that's always indicative that not entirely on the pace, but we are getting to a pretty chunky section of road. You saw that rider at the back there just maybe getting their front wheel into a little trouble, but saving things and making sure they stayed on the path.
Well, yeah, that's the thing with these roads right now and this time of year in the fall. There's a lot of fallen leaves on the side of the road. So again, just obscuring any rocks or debris that might be in the side. So wherever you can, you are definitely trying to find the best track, the best line that's packed down where you can see what might be sticking out of the dirt. And Emily Newsom, just with her head down here right now, she is not part of the Lifetime Grand Prix series this year. So for her, there is nothing on the line for the overall. However, a big win here at Big Sugar still means a lot for any one of these riders, whether they're part of the Grand Prix or not. A win at Big Sugar is still a really, really important deal for these riders, especially at the end of the season, as some of them might be looking for contracts for next year. So to be able to finish the season with a win gives you a lot more firepower to go to your sponsors or potential sponsors to talk about, you know, an increased contract for next year.
Yeah, it's a ton of motivation as well. Everyone likes to end the season on a positive note to make that downtime feel good and the winter training be that much more tolerable. But you can see the rest of our group lined out right now, so that gap very quickly coming down, probably down to about 5 seconds right now. There's all the riders, obviously the desired line over toward the left side of the road there as they move along, and you can just tell how quickly the landscape is moving by, that they're in excess of probably about 25 miles an hour right now. Shouldn't be too long before they close down the rest of that gap right now, and maybe just a little bit of daylight starting to pop about 5 or 6 wheels back in that chase. So it'd be interesting to see who's chasing, right? Because you said Emily's not in the series, so you know, it's not only Sophia who is your overall leader, but has it locked up, who doesn't necessarily have a vested interest in the chase because she's not concerned about points, but pretty much every other rider that's in that points scrum for the podium or for those top 5 spots to move on next year, nobody really has an interest in Emily, and that's where that great overall, or that great daily prize list comes into play, right? A lot of riders thinking about that big paycheck just for the day out there.
Right. But the other thing we talked about earlier was who's forming alliances out here. So Emily Newsom races for the Pass Racing Team, or Paul Normal, and her teammate is Cecily Decker.
Right.
Teammate, you know, it's an interesting dynamic out there.
It's not the same as a road, right? It's always a little different.
Well, so the Paul Normal or the Pass Racing Team, they don't share all of the same sponsors. So they do have some individual goals, but then they also have some alliances, of course. And I think what I've been told is that they're going to race each other. They're just not going to. They may not chase each other down, but if they're together coming into this, you know, to the finish of a race, they are going to, you know, sprint each other for sure. And so Emily could have been out there trying to string things along for Cecily. Some riders don't like a slow race. They're better at a faster paced race. That's just, it plays into their strengths. It means that other riders, you know, are getting tired where they're kind of in their sweet spot, and they don't like things to be bunched up. It can get a little bit anxious in the group, and you can't see as well. There's more possibility for crashes, whatnot, when, you know, there's just a lot of people around you. So it's even though when they're strung out, you're tight on a wheel, you may not see as much that's right under your wheel. Things in some ways might be a little bit more under your control. And so Cecily might have asked Emily, or they might have had a team, you know, meeting and asked Emily to go to the front or whatever to try to string it out, because that could play into Cecily's strengths for the finish of the race.
Yeah, and I mean, you think back to Cecily's year she had when we opened up the season back at Sea Otter at the beginning of the year. She spent so much time at the front of that race, right? Like, she was one of the drivers, and to the point where when we were commentating, we were almost questioning, like, man, she's just sitting on the front a lot, really driving this pace. But, you know, I think that underscores what you're kind of saying, is she really likes a very, very fast race out there. Well, Outside Magazine has named Arkansas Monument Trails the best mountain biking in the U.S., and Bentonville alone is home to more than 130 miles of single track, every mile rideable from the downtown area. Still a big group there in the women. We've obviously lost a few riders, and that actually now looks like Decker on the front, so it's that Pas Normal with the white helmet on the front, and the rest of the group is kind of content to follow the pace at the moment.
Yeah, we definitely, I think, have seen a few riders, you know, tailed off the back of this group, shed from this group, and a lot of these riders, again, going back to the overall tactics for the day and the speed of the race for the day, is ideally you don't want to come to the finish line with a big group of people that you're going to be sprinting against, whether that's men or women, right? So most of these women aren't pure sprinters, so they're not going to have someone doing a long lead out like you see in road races where somebody goes to the front and the team just takes turns on the front, keeping a super high pace for then their sprinter to sprint in the last few, you know, 100 feet or whatever of the race. Where in a gravel race like these, we're not seeing big teams. We see some alliances, but we're not necessarily seeing a big team coming in and dominating a race and taking control of a race. So it's the advantage for some of these riders to have a faster pace. One, to string it out where in some cases it might be a little safer, a little more in your control, but also to shed some of the riders so you just have fewer people to worry about at the finish line.
Yeah, I have to suspect a lot of the riders are thinking about some of those features that we've talked about early on in the broadcast that come towards the end of the race, right? You get into that final 5 or 6 miles and you get that big pinch point into the single track there that's just on the outskirts of town there, and it's just before the paved climbs on the A road area. So a lot of riders may be thinking about those, and neither one of those 2 climbs on A road are long, but they're certainly even at the end of 50 miles, it's enough of a springboard that if you've ridden smartly, you've fueled properly, and you've not put too much out there, that could be the place to make your move and get a substantial advantage. Obviously, we're seeing a fair bit of attacking here in the women's race, but no gaps really able to get a whole lot of daylight. And, again, like a great example, just long stretches where you can see for a while. The bigger group obviously has a faster rolling momentum, especially on some of these little downhill sections. So they don't even need to necessarily put out the same amount of power to go that fast to be able to roll back a gap over one lone rider. And I think that's maybe why some riders are keeping their cards, close to their chest right now, because they realize that this fast paced, it makes it very hard to get away. And so they've seen some unsuccessful moves right now, and they're kind of learning from that, okay, I've seen some very strong riders make some very well-timed, well-executed moves, but they're just not getting the daylight that you might expect that they would get, out here on the course. So riders are like, you know what, I'm going to save my energy, I'm going to wait, and I'm just going to try and make one bigger effort a little bit later in the race as we see them crest another one of these little 10, 20-second climbs out there. And I know when we were looking at the 100-mile course, it's 6,000 feet. It's kind of that course, right? Like you look at Leadville, obviously is at altitude, and then you've got the Columbine climb, which is 50 minutes an hour long for most riders. You've got Unbound with just that sheer length of the race at 200 miles. The defining feature of this is just that sawtooth profile, right? It's up and down, and that death by 1,000 cuts, I say that a lot because it's such an applicable term for a race like this. Is just you're making that 30, 40 second effort just time after time after time, and eventually, if you're looking at your power meter that's measuring your watts, you might start out with every acceleration at X watts, but then it's going to slowly come down, and get a little more challenging. So once again, our live coverage brought to you by Orange Seal, and we're going to throw it back out on course to Nat Ross for an update.
Oh man, is it happening here. So Torbjorn Road, his day is not what he wanted. He was cramping. He is off the chase group, and the second group that is almost in contact with the chase group has swallowed up Torbjorn. His day's not to go. But let's go back to the Grand Prix, because this Grand Prix race is in a peloton together. Keegan doing his thing to stay right where he needs to be, and for Simone Paylot to be in this group right now is perfect. He's closing where he needs to close in on, and now the pace has slowed again with this chase. They know the Grand Prix title is on the line for today. So Keegan was positioned where the overall, he has all the alliances and everybody. Okay, so Simone doing what he does, has just animated that. Simone sitting towards the back here. And I think Cole Patton, if we can corner and catch up, was putting up the pace because Cole wants to break this up, or perhaps these alliances. Back to the overall, this is the group that is going to decide the Grand Prix overall. So off the front, it's a different race. They're going for today's title, but the Grand Prix, we have a very narrow course with the pace is stringing out multiple attacks right now. Let's go back to the studio with you guys, and we'll pop back in with more action.
All right, we're looking back on our women's group right now. one rider there. I believe that's our women's group. One rider just heading directly into the eye of the storm up there.
That is what we have been talking about these past few days with the weather forecasts predicting extreme or severe thunderstorms today, which is why the race was cut from 100 miles to 50 miles for rider safety, making sure everybody out there racing today gets off the course safely. Still trying to get a visual, but this is, I believe, the lead woman going into the Whistling Springs aid station. So this is right around mile 29. So we'll see what happens as the women come through this aid station. This is a fast descent, typically in the past. You can see how the speeds are coming fast, almost missing this turn here coming into the aid station.
All right, we're actually going to throw it out to Lauren Hall for an update out there on the course.
Bill Meredith, we are here at the feed zone, Whistling Springs, and just over my cameraman's shoulder is the storm coming in. You can hear thunder in the distance, and we know that these women are going to come through here at lightning speed. We just had the men roll through. You can hear how fast they are, the gravel on those tires. They're flying, and I think you guys were actually talking that they were doing around 23 miles an hour for the men's race. That is unheard of. They are blazing through here, and also the talk out here, people are really liking this dynamic of a 50-mile race. It changes everything. The shake-up, it's great. And some of the athletes really loved it pre-race, and some were really, really nervous. And we're out in the race here. Our lead moto coming through right now. Women are flying through, not even taking a bottle right here. Maud Farrell leading this charge. Sophia Gomez-Vichafanye grabbing a bottle. Melissa missing her bottle. Lauren Stevens right behind her. Single file indicates fast racing, high speed, some grab, some not. And it's interesting to see who grabs and who doesn't. More coming through. Wow, wow, wow. So fast. Ellen Campbell just off the back right there. This is a dynamic race. I love the technicality of all of this and how this is going to play out for the Lifetime Grand Prix standings today. Guys, back to you.
Oh my gosh, you guys, that was, let me tell you, a feed zone is always crazy, but a feed zone at this pace on gravel roads is also, it just adds a whole nother element dynamic to it. I'm glad to see everybody got through safely because it's not unusual to see crashes going through the feed zone, but we got everyone in and out quickly here, and the women are absolutely flying.
Well, you're seeing it out here today. Endurance demands a focus. Kenetik helps riders stay sharp and locked in. It's clean, ketone-powered brain and body performance fuel. Now available in 2-ounce performance shots. Get yours at drinkkenetik.com. So we've got a special guest in the studio here for a little bit. Paige Onweller, one of the top riders on the women's side of things. Obviously, Paige coming back from a bit of an injury here, so unfortunately not able to race, but it's our gain here in the studio to have you give us a little bit of insight. First, Paige, I got to ask, right, we obviously diverted from the 100-mile course to the 50-mile course. Is there anything that we're missing out there that's going to be a big factor on this 50-mile course that the athletes can expect?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been a chaotic morning for these racers. Most people haven't seen the 50-mile course. It's very different, and there's roads that these riders have never even reconned or seen. So it's, everyone doesn't know how it's going to play out. We definitely have, it's interesting. There's a tailwind first half, and then there's going to be a headwind. So there might be some interesting, tactics that happen there. Coming to studio.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting there for for this course. To your point, right? They've not seen this course. A couple riders, they were getting the memos yesterday of the potential situations that we were facing in terms of what we were going to have to do with the weather. So when they knew that the 50 was on the table as an option, I think a lot of riders went out, drove the course. Obviously a little different than riding, but at least got their eyes on it. a little bit out there.
Yeah, I mean, Matt Beers and I think the Specialized team went out there and rode that, and that's clearly paying off for him. And, I talked to Riley in the beginning and gave him a big hug, and he's like, this is great for me because, those XC riders, it's a lot shorter. And I know a lot of the gravel racers are used to the longer events, and that gives a longer time for things to play out.
We're looking right now at our leaders, Matt Beers. It looks like we're down to 2 in the front. Matt Beers and I believe Matt Wilson now on the front.
Hey everyone, I'm Alexei Mullen, otherwise known as Willie's dad, and I am a Road ID ambassador. Back when I was younger, my parents gifted me a Road ID. There was 2 rules for me to go ride by myself. 1, I had to ride on dirt roads, and 2, I had to bring my Road ID. It became as routine as putting on my helmet and shoes, and it's pretty cool that years later, it's still with me. Back then, it used to just be something I had to do, part of the rules to leave. Now, it's something that I really understand, and it's super important. It's peace of mind for Sophie, for my parents, best of all, for me, when I'm riding alone. It's been a part of my life since the beginning, and when I can't speak, it can speak for me. It seems small, but you never know. This little bracelet might just save your life.
Before KONs, real-time data, watts, before we normalized watts, before zone 2, 3, or 4, before we found pain in caves. Whoops, not those caves. There was fax machines, dongles, flip phones, and pagers.
Well, pagers don't really play into our story, but I had one, and I never missed a group ride. I'm Dirk Friel, founder of Training Peaks. It's hard to believe that in the beginning we had to use a dongle to download our data, then dial up to email it to our coach. Haven't heard that sound in a while. That was where we started 25 years ago. Look at us now. Now we've got athletes and engineers like Mindy, Tom, Frank, and Jill. Enjoy your run. At Training Peaks, we are all committed to building the world's best training platform for coaches and athletes, to elevate your workouts and make the coach-athlete relationship more meaningful. Group ride tomorrow. You in?
Let's do it.
But it would just be numbers?
No, it's like slow rolling text message.
Okay.
I think your nutrition is really important. You have to train the same way you race. Yeah, I mean, never second slogan is science first, never second. And I feel like I kind of operate the same way. I'm very regimented, and everything has a plan and a place. And their products sit really well with me. I tested them for a long time before I was like, oh, let's partner up and let's do this.
Your overall winner for the Life Time Grand Prix. This is Kenetik.
Never second's got it figured out. Everything just works.
Never had.
Road ID is an essential piece of gear for every cyclist, which is why it's worn by top athletes like Alexei Vermeulen, Keegan Swenson, Sofia Gomez, Visha Fagné, and Sarah Sturm. In an emergency, it communicates who you are and who to contact. Road ID has been fueling adventure and delivering peace of mind since 1999. Check them out at roadid.com. And Keegan Swenson, Sofia Gomez, Visha Fagné, and Matt Beers are dominating the off-road cycling scene, and they all fuel with Never Second. It's science-backed performance, nutrition trusted by the best. Learn more at never2.com. And we're back with our leaders, and it looks like we're missing one rider very conspicuously at the front there.
And we were just talking about Riley Amos, who is the rider that is missing. And my guess would be that something happened, that there was some type of a mechanical, potentially a crash. I don't know. I think that Riley was looking good. So the fact that it could have been a mechanical or a flat, something like that. Paige, tell us a little bit about what these roads are like. You live here. You've trained on these roads a lot. So what are the condition of the roads out there?
Yeah, the roads are very chunky, and there's a lot of sharp rock. And when you're riding, even in a group of 3, if you're sitting third wheel, you can't always see everything that's coming. And it just takes, one rock to get a flat. And also, a lot of people have noticed that these men are going really fast. They're blazing today, and so you're hitting stuff at a very high speed, and it doesn't matter what equipment you have. It's carnage out there. So, and things are dusty. We're about to get some rain, but leading up to this, it's been pretty dry, and you can't always see what's out there. So yeah, and I think Riley's had a pretty busy schedule. He's been traveling for the World Cups. He's been here this week with USAC, and so it was great to see him up there in the front. But yeah, he's probably pretty exhausted too, the end of their World Cup season with a lot of travel and obligations. So, but it was good to see him up there while he was. And then, is it Matt Wilson that's up there in that group too? And that's a rider we haven't, talked a lot about. But if you're watching Little Sugar, I think he entered like 2nd or 3rd behind Matt Beers. And I was talking to my teammate Toby, and he said it was something like 700 watts for 2 minutes trying to hold on to Beers' wheel. And so that tells you something. That guy's strong. And I think he's kind of unrecognized rider, but he definitely has the power and the strength. I think he trains with Cam Jones, so he definitely knows what he's doing out there. And then Beers, yeah, you see with that bandage, he had to get stitches at Little Sugar, and it's so good to see him. He's had a lot of rough races this year, and I think everyone is a Matt Beers fan because he just drills. Like even last year at Big Sugar, he got away from the group like right at the front. So it's good to see him having a good day and putting down some massive power. That'd be a hard day for those two.
Yeah, and we've talked a little bit too about how there's no long extended climbs in Northwest, or at least on these courses in Northwest Arkansas. So what does it feel like when it's just constantly undulating, and what kind of, that takes a sort of a different kind of energy because you never really get into a rhythm, and it's just kind of a different style of riding on these
For
constantly.
sure, yeah, it's very punchy, a lot of VO2 efforts. These two riders can be steady because they're working together, and you can really push the downhills and keep things consistent, but it's still really hard just to clear some of those climbs and, the chunk factor. You're not rolling over things with speed. But, the group behind, like if it's a chase group, big group, sometimes that's less efficient because not everyone can corner as well with it's so loose here, and cornering becomes, problematic if you're not used to training on this, and skill levels are pretty varied in the gravel peloton. So, yeah, if you're in the group, there's a lot of like sit in, sprint back, and that can be a little bit harder on the body, and it depends on your physiology of how you're impacted. You guys had mentioned that Toby had, done some cramping, and, like sometimes being in a pack is harder.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Like you said, you're entering those corners not in a straight line, but kind of all ballooned out sometimes, and things get stretched out so that you're having to sprint back to get a wheel. You just, because you're having to give yourself a little bit of space when you can't see what's coming. This course today isn't as familiar, without the riders having necessarily been able to pre-ride it, that sort of thing. So they just are a little more unfamiliar with what's coming. But then you're also having to navigate the terrain and the people around you. So yeah, in a big group like that, instead of being able to roll through with just one person in front of you through corners, you're having to navigate a lot more things where the space opens up, and then you're having to do these little micro sprints over and over again throughout the day.
Yeah, for sure. And these two guys have a big advantage because the second half of the course is going to have a lot of headwind, and there can be some games with that because it is a lot more efficient, and you can save 30% of your energy by sitting behind somebody. And that big group, they're still fighting for third. There's a lot of Grand Prix points on the line. So the double mat combo, we'll call it up there off the breakaway. Right. They might be able to work together and continue that gap into the headwind because there's not going to be any games. So in a situation like this, that's helpful, and that's probably why it was a good move. It's harder to chase back with a tailwind, and we saw that in the beginning there.
And what do you think, as far as both men and women in these groups, what kind of alliances do you think are forming out there, as far as they're maybe not teammates, but they're friends, or they share a sponsor, a bike partner, a component sponsor, something like that? How do you think some of the alliances are playing a factor in today's race?
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely some team tactics that can happen and, you know, sponsor alliances. But, you know, gravel is still a little unique in a sense that there's not a lot of, you know, designated teams because our contracts are built pretty individually. So, yeah, but there's certainly alliances between riders that, you know, train together and, you know, kind of have deals between each other. And that just, yeah, there's a lot of options. But every man for themselves still, because gravel is pretty unpredictable. You can't really have teammates pull you to a win in this style of racing and terrain.
Well, so just as an update to folks, obviously, you know, we've been dealing with that weather thing that we keep discussing. Arkansas Buffalo National River was America's first designated national river out there. So kind of an interesting fact that the riders are getting to experience some of that stuff here in the great northwest corner of Arkansas. Beautiful area for riding, let alone racing bikes out there. The natural state, Arkansas, and we're always happy to be back here for Big Sugar Gravel. But yeah, going back to you know, talking about the weather again and trying not to beat a dead horse with that out there. But we have gotten word. You can kind of see around, certainly outside our studio and from certain vantage points of our riders, the sky's starting to get a little bit darker. So our helicopter that's been providing us with a lot of footage has been pulled down. So the helicopter has landed. It's going to be grounded for the rest of the day at this point. So all of our live shots are going to come from on the ground. So, you know, we're going to do the best we can to bring you this coverage. It's still phenomenal coverage right now as we've got, we can still see Matt Beers, Matt Wilson doing what they do up there, still working well into the final probably quarter or third of the race anyway at this point. And looking at our field, well, still the body language of the group, the pack language, indicating that nobody's really committed on that chase just yet. It's starting to get maybe a little bit single file, but just a moment ago we saw a lot of chattering going on with like Toby Road and Simone Pilot back there.
But right now we're seeing the women on the right side of the screen. So the two men's leaders on the left side of the screen, the women on the right side of the screen. Paige, what do you think are the tactics today? Obviously, Sophia has the overall locked up, and then we're seeing, you know, second and third, the race on for second and third place between Cecily Decker and Melissa Rollins. Do you think they're just going to be marking each other all the way to the finish, or do you think we'll see an attack from one of them coming in the last few miles of the race? And where do you think that might happen if it does?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, in watching this, I'm kind of surprised that the women's pack's still together. There's been a lot of looking around. This kind of really hasn't been that dynamic. We saw Lauren Stevens try to break away, but immediately, you know, we saw Gwen Gibson, another XC rider, and then we saw Cecily and Melissa, all those hitters like immediately on her wheel. So, you know, it's hard to say. Like I said, we're going to have a headwind, so that makes things a little bit tougher. But yeah, like towards the end of the race, you know, we have those paved gravel climb or paved road climbs, and I think a lot of times that's where people make their moves is if there's still a pack. But honestly, you know, I can't even predict what they're thinking about because the race changed. A lot of these women don't even know the course, and that's why maybe there hasn't been attacks, is because they don't know what's coming up. Where is even a good place to go? And
right.
You know, we come to these events, you know, a week before and study and recon, you know, everything super well. And yeah, like for me, I know these roads really well. Like I can tell these guys, they're on Ryan Road and they're about to turn right onto Sugar Creek, or through the gravel connector they just went. So they're coming down to the finish there. But yeah, it's hard to say what they're thinking and what's going to happen. But I would imagine there's going to be attacks flying soon, or if the group comes together or stays together for the women, it'll probably be on those road climbs and potentially a sprint finish.
But right now, it looks like Matt Beers maybe all by himself out there taking a look back, and we're looking to see if that camera's going to pan out. We see Matt looking back again, so didn't really see any. Oh, look at this. That looks like it's probably a cramp. That looks like it might be a cramp there by this rider, rider number 150 there.
Adam Roberge or
a little bit of a cramp there. That's never a fun thing out there. Yeah, Adam Roberge with that unfortunate cramp out there. But yeah, we're looking to see if Matt Beers is indeed solo, or if Matt Wilson is just a little bit out of the picture there. We didn't see a big attack by Beers, but we know he's been riding very strongly on the front a lot of the time, as you can see him asking the moto for a little bit of an update there to see what's going on. He's continuing to look down at his bike, and look at that, he has got a gap. So Matt Beers now officially by himself. Matt Wilson, we couldn't quite see him in the picture there, so not exactly sure if Wilson just gave into the pace. A few minutes ago, we saw them on one of those little uphills, and Beers had been going kind of side to side, looking like he was kind of flicking the elbow, and Wilson was just following him back and forth, not pulling through. So maybe that was a little bit indicative to a problem up there. But we'll try and get some information as we can on how this unfolded right now. As
Payson.
Yeah, Payson.
Yeah,
with
Payson
mechanical.
McKelvin now with a bit of a mechanical, trying to put a chain on, and he was in that chasing group. So bad news for that chasing effort now.
And seeing these three guys, there was one just up the road, obviously, someone else standing there. I'm guessing that something must have happened amongst the three of them, the fact that they were all kind of standing there or
yeah,
slowed down?
actually know exactly where that's at, and there's a really chunky corner right there. So my guess is that there was some sort of, either light collision or, to see three people down is, pretty rare. And Matt Beers, he came down that gravel connector, and I don't know exactly what happened, but this is a cross section, so it was a smart area for him to, try to make a move there.
All right, well, Paige, it's been wonderful having you in the studio. Some great insights out there. Of course, we're sorry that you're unable to be out there in the women's field, but recovery is the most important part, and we wish you the best of luck with the rest of your season.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Yeah, and this is kind of Matt Beers is an absolute machine on a bike. He's just a beast. And so now that, when he looks over his shoulder and knows that those guys aren't on his wheel anymore, I can guarantee you he's just going to put his head down and like Pete Stetna says, he's just going to smash it all the way to the finish. That's just his style, and that's how he races. He's just, so much power. He's a big guy, so he just can put out enormous amount of watts, and it's so hard for other people to follow his wheel. So whether he just rode the other guys off his wheel, as Paige said, Riley's had a long season, and so whether or not he's just done for the season, just pulled the pin. Matt Wilson, hard to say. I know that he was eager to come in today and get a good result, so hard to say what might have happened to him, whether that was a mechanical or he just blew up trying to stay with Matt Beers all day long. But I think at this point, unless anything happens to Matt, with the amount of road he has left to cover to the finish, which isn't a lot. We're closing in on the finish now, maybe within 10 miles or so. And so he just has to keep it steady and play it safe.
Yeah, and I tell you what, we've talked about that headwind on the way back in, and obviously that wind, starting to increase as the storm gets a little bit closer here. I honestly, if there's one rider that I think that headwind's not going to bother a lot, it's going to be Matt Beers. I mean, you alluded to he's a bigger rider, right? He's a taller rider, he's a bigger rider, and obviously that's a little bit more frontal area into the wind, and so that's certainly a consideration. But he's also got so much power there that I think he's just, he's going to kind of buckle down, lock in, and you can see where he is on the course. If you looked at our 50-mile loop, it's kind of like a lollipop where the riders head out of town here, do a big loop from east to west kind of, and then come back. And he looks like he's on the stick of that lollipop right now because he's obviously coming across age groupers that are heading out. Into they're probably the 25-milers, I'm guessing right now, that are heading out. So that's indicative that Matt is getting pretty close to getting back into town here. So my guess is going to be he's probably got about 12-ish, 10, 12 miles to go. We've been racing for about an hour and 58 minutes. So the race will be a little bit over, obviously, that 2-hour mark. So the pace coming down a little bit from that opening hour that was up around about a 26-odd mile-an-hour pace. So coming down just a little bit, but that's you would figure that coming back into the headwind and the nature of the course. It's a little bit climby in that last 12 miles, so that pace coming down. But Matt Beers very quickly making his way back into town on a solo mission here in Big Sugar Gravel.
Hi, my name is Sofia Gomez Villafañe. I am a professional cyclist, and this cute thing on my wrist is my road ID. I wear a road ID because it keeps me safe. It has the ability to tell first responders who I am, who my emergency contacts are, and any critical information about me in the case that I'm not able to speak. Cycling can be unpredictable, weather, crashes, group dynamics, but one thing I control is how prepared I am, and this is why I wear my road ID anytime I ride, with people or by myself.
Every morning you make a promise to yourself to push harder, to go further, to give it your best. Years ago, I made a promise too. When I discovered supplements weren't what they claimed to be, I promised to create something worthy of your standards. Something as committed to excellence as you are, because extraordinary effort deserves extraordinary support. LTH, the most rigorously tested supplements in the industry.
Well, LTH was built for days like this. Lifetime's own supplement line, trusted for 20+ years. It delivers clean, effective recovery with ingredients that are pure, potent, and always a third-party tested. And whatever you like to ride, you can find it right here in Arkansas. Aggressive downhill, flowy single track, scenic gravel rides that span from the Ozarks to the Delta and more. We've got every type of terrain for every skill level right here in Arkansas. To learn more, visit arkansas.com, where you can pick your path and find your adventure. Well, we've got another guest in our studio now here as we get down to the closing a little bit of the final stop of the 2025 Lifetime Grand Prix, round number 6 here at Big Sugar Gravel. We've got none other than the president of Lifetime Events, Kimo Seymour, in here with us today. Kimo, it's you opened the door a minute ago, and it looks a little rainy out there, man.
Well, it's everything we expected. You know, we had to make some adjustments today. Good morning, Meredith. Good morning, Bill, by the way. Had to make a real tough call this morning, knowing that we had some pretty severe weather coming in this afternoon to obviously shorten the event, and it's coming to reality here. I just came in from the finish line. It's absolutely dumping rain. You can see Matt Beers here off the front. He is riding into that rainstorm that's kind of that cell that's moving over this area, and it was just going to be a little too risky to have 800 to 1,000 100-mile riders, plus all of our pro athletes, obviously, but especially those age group athletes way out 30, 40 miles north of town when a storm like this rolls through. It was just too risky, and we had to make the safety call, which isn't always the fun call to make, but we think we made the right decision, and here it is. It just showed up.
Yeah, I think, a lot of the pro athletes are used to probably riding in adverse conditions. They race so often that you can't avoid it. So they're used to it, but as you said, I mean, the age groupers are not used to this, and most days they'd look outside and they're like, well, I'm not going to go out in this, where the pros are like, I've got to train today. So, it is what it is. But here we are with the women's race, and this is Melissa Rollins and I believe Gwendolyn Gibson off the front of this race. Oh no, I believe that's Maddie Monroe, sorry. Yeah. Taking the rate, they don't want to sit in anymore. And so with Melissa, who is in the Lifetime Grand Prix, sitting 3rd overall, 2 points behind Cecily Decker, I'm curious to see what's going to happen behind, because Cecily cannot, here we go, she cannot let Melissa up the road. And this is, I think, what we're going to see all the way to the finish line right now is Melissa and Cecily, they're marking each other, they're just waiting for one or the other to attack, and to see who might be the strongest one up the climb. Sure enough, that was Cecily closing that gap, and she's like, oh no, you don't, Melissa, I'm bringing you right back. And Maddie still on the front, head down, just going for it.
Yeah, I think that's actually Gwendolyn on the front.
I
recognize her helmet. And Maddie's the one on the back right here. Just as looks like Sophia stood up to make a little dig, but that was Maddie sitting on the back, and I'm sure Gwendolyn and Maddie might have a little something going here too. They're on the same team, just coming off the World Cup, obviously finish up their season, and they were pretty excited to have the race drop down to 50. I talked to both of them at the start, and this will suit them a lot more than a 100-mile event would.
Yeah, and they're not that they're an unknown quantity, but they haven't really participated in the Lifetime Grand Prix, so they'll catch some other riders off guard, and some of the other riders may not be, while they know those two, might not be quite as familiar with their skill sets out there. So it's a great opportunity for them to try to get themselves in the mix and try to get their hands in the daily prize money pot. We absolutely see that rain really coming down as the riders making their way back into town here, just literally riding into the eye of the storm there. And Matt Beers, this is going to continue to work in his favor right now because, in that group, obviously that pack that's left behind him, it's a little harder to stay right on the wheel now because we talk about visibility, and now it's going to come down even more with the spray off the wheels into their eyes. So the riders are going to, they're going to separate just a little bit in that group, and it's probably going to help slow things down a little. And Matt just has to worry about literally what's right in front of him right now as he makes his way back. And, again, we're guessing. We know he's on that lollipop portion, and we're kind of guessing that he's probably about 7 to 8 miles out of town here. So it shouldn't be too much longer for Matt Beers. And still no word on what happened to Matt Wilson. We're guessing probably a mechanical because Meredith, as you pointed out, he kind of dropped out of the picture really, really quickly. And, normally if you have a struggle with the pace or if you have a cramp, you're going to kind of linger there for a little bit and just lose little bits of time before that gap gets big. But I think probably a puncture or something along those lines is what saw that real estate really open up quickly for Matt Wilson. So we're not really sure what the chasing formation looks like at the moment. All we know is Matt Beers is all by his lonesome right now.
And Matt, let's talk about the overall for a minute. I want to say math, but I'm not that great at math. But there's a lot on the line here in the overall series. So Matt Beers currently is sitting 8th overall in the Lifetime Grand Prix series. He is just 2 points behind Andrew L'Esperance, who's in 7th. And, for the Chemo, you might be able to talk to this really well, but for the top 10 in the series, the points breakdown is 2 points. So the winner gets 35, and then second gets 33, top 5.
Top 5, and it starts at 30, actually, because we have 25 riders. So 30, okay. 28, 26, 24, 22, and then when you get down to 20 at number 25, then it goes 1 point spread from there on down.
Okay, and so if Matt wins today, which it's looking like he will unless something happens here, if Matt wins today, he's not going to be able to take the overall win, but he can certainly move himself up in the overall standings. But of course, that all depends on everybody's finish behind him. So right now we see the top 4 who are separated by just 2 points between Keegan Swenson, Simone Pilot, Cameron Jones, and Torbjorn Rode. They're all just kind of sitting in and watching each other, and I think, to be honest, most of them are probably happy to let anybody go up the road, and then we'll see who goes on the offensive towards the end as they hit those last couple climbs into the finish, especially now with the weather, and we'll see how everyone's feeling. But it doesn't really matter if some of the riders down lower in the overall standings kind of go up the road, because they just eat up those points and they're okay with that.
Right. With Matt, where he is in 8th place, he's only 2 points down on Andrew L'Esperance, 4 points down on Braden Lang, and 5 points down on Alexei Vermeulen. And as you mentioned earlier, we made the decision that we're going to let the top 5 this year auto qualify, and these guys are racing to get into that top 5 position. So Beers has a chance that those 4 guys, Beers, Lesby, Braden Lang, and Alexei Vermeulen, all racing for that fifth position to auto qualify for next year. And Matt can move up into that position if he takes this win and puts a couple places, there's a couple places between himself and those other 3.
Yeah, and we haven't seen anything really from Alexei Vermeulen and Braden Lang, or really Andrew L'Esperance so far today. It doesn't mean that they're not in the picture in that group, but we've certainly not seen them in the front or in the chasing group right now. As we can see, Matt Beers very, very close to town right now. He's on the pavement. He's continuing to look back over his shoulder. So I wonder if there's chasers that are kind of within sight, because he's spending a lot of time there looking back that would indicate he's a little nervous. I'll tell you what, that actually looked like a little bit of a grin on his face. So maybe that was just an insurance policy check back to see that he's got it. But it looks like Matt Beers very, very close into town here. So he'll be coming through our finish line area in just a couple of moments. He's really just got those the paved climb on A Street really left to tackle at this point.
So he's already over that first hill on
Right.
A Street. He's down there by the down by the treatment plant. He is about, I'd say, 1.5 miles from the finish, 1.5 miles to 2 miles. So here's the last little climb he's going to have to hit on A before he gets up onto the top of the hill and rolls into town.
Yeah, and by him winning today's race, that gives him maximum points, as you said. So, you know, it's a math game after that to see as to who's finishing in the top 5, where there's a 2-point differential between the top 5 spots, and then you go to a 1-point differential. So we're going to see a big shuffling, I think, in the overall standings today. You know, likely Matt is definitely going to move up in the standings, and then we'll see who else is going to finish in that top 5 to get those you know, that 2-point differential versus outside the top 5 with the 1 point. So it's all a math game at this point. And good luck trying to figure that out.
Well, the natural state is an homage to Arkansas's natural wonders and 52 state parks. Looking again at Matt Beers, and I'll tell you what, looks like he's got that grin going on. He's looking over, having a little chat with the moto driver there. Again, he's very, very close to the finish, probably about 1 mile or so from the finish right now, just making his way up that final climb, actually, right now. So he's going to be dumping out to the line here momentarily as we look back on our women's field, and they, too, have ridden their way into the eye of the storm, and things starting to get a little single file as the riders try and take advantage of the chaos that this storm is bringing and try and maybe create a little bit of separation there.
And we're seeing Lauren de Crescenzo on the front, which at this point in the race, she is not a sprinter, and she will admit that every day, every minute of the race. But so it is to her advantage that she goes to the front, really tries to string things out, maybe forms a little bit of a break, has some riders that she can work with into the finish line. She is likely not going to beat anyone in a sprint, so the fewer riders that come to the finish line with her, the better for her. And Lauren de Crescenzo is currently sitting 9th overall, and those top 9 in the women's race are all still pretty close, and anyone from 2nd to 9th can still finish within that top 5 to get that automatic qualification for next year.
Yeah, so many layers to this one today. I kind of love it. It's a very tactical battle, and back there in the women's race, you know, again, we saw some attacks earlier trying to suss things out. But right now we're back on Matt Beers as he's now officially up into town here. Looking at maybe this is one of our chasers, I believe, that we've got eyes on at the moment. Also down there, just about 1.5 miles from the finish there, just one final climb to go up the hill into town proper. So we try and get our eyes on that number. But now we're going to go to Matt Beers because he's now within the fencing here in the final straight. So the man out of South Africa had a rough day last weekend at Little Sugar, but he's going to make amends here today in Big Sugar Gravel. Your winner, the final stop of the Grand Prix this year, Matt Beers across the line. And I don't think he minds getting soaked by champagne, just blending in with a little bit of rainwater there. A great ride by Matt Beers in just about 2 hours and 11 minutes or so. So about 23 or so miles an hour as he runs for cover just around the corner there in the press area. So Matt Beers, a phenomenal ride out there from very early on. He had the company initially of Riley Amos and Matt Wilson, but both those two riders fell off the pace somewhere along the way. Matt Beers with the solo win, and we're now looking at our chase group. And these guys are about 1.5 miles out. We believe there's actually one rider in front of them. We're not sure who that one chaser is, but we see the field coming. We know there's one chaser a little bit farther ahead. We're going to try and identify them as they make their way to the line, as we're getting another look at Matt Beers there. All smiles in the media tent, finally locking up a big win here to close out his 2025 Lifetime Grand Prix Series.
And here we can see Cam Jones and Keegan Swinson sitting on the back of this group. Keegan has got his eye on the entire group, and he's kind of got the advantage right now really, because the other guys don't know where he is. Oh, there we go. Simone Flo right on Keegan's wheel. There's the roadie veteran right there, knowing all the games that are going to go down. And, you know, Cam Jones kind of with the blind eye to both of these guys behind him. So he has got to make sure he's in a position to be able to go. If Keegan here, not quite yet.
So Meredith, this is that final hill. Right. So this. If anybody's going to attack, this is going to be the spot right here. This is their last chance to get away before just letting it come down to a sprint in the finish. So
and remember it unbound, right? Coming down the line. Cam made that big attack on that last climb coming in with Simone Pilot. So, you know, he's got to be thinking that same thing. But we're already almost to the top, only about another 150 meters before this climb will start to level out in town as the riders now starting to jockey for position a little bit. I'm surprised Pilot's still at the back of the group, because you come up to the top of the hill, it's only a couple of turns there, and then you're within a few hundred meters of the finish line. So it's a small group, so it's not like any position is really that bad in a small group, but you're really going to want to be in the top 3 or 4.
And we can see Toby Road up near the front on the kind of the right side of the road. And so he's also got to make sure that he has a way to get out. Sometimes, you know, when the group is pushed against the gutter or the edge of the road, he could potentially get blocked in by the riders on his left side. So if he wants to contest the sprint at the finish, he's got to make sure he's got, you know, room in front of him to get out of this group and jump. And it looks like the same situation for Cam Jones. He's riding right on the edge of the road over there, where Simone and Keegan are kind of on the left side with a little more clear open road in front of them.
Well, let's not forget Alexi Vermeulen. He was a winner here before. He's a very accomplished road rider. He's in the mix. He's currently the guy sitting on 5th place overall right now. Remember, top 5 in the overall automatically move into the 2026 Lifetime Grand Prix. So a lot at stake here as they make their way to the line. Braden Lang also in that mix as they're going to bend right. That means that left-hand turn, I believe, coming up in just a moment. Then they're going to be pretty much within sight of the finish line. So this is going to be a great sprint as we try and get our eyes on what's unfolding out there.
Oh, here we go. Wow. So we definitely missed a few chasers in there. That was Riley Amos for sure. It was hard to.
And Matt Wilson.
And so he might have been second, and then Riley, I believe. Here we see the big sprint coming into the finish line.
Coming into the line here. They are spread out across the road, and who's going to be taking that one on the line?
Cam
Jones.
Looks like Cam Jones. So yeah, Cam Jones proving he's got some fast twitch in those legs as well. So Cam Jones going to be the kind of the best of the rest in that field. So we believe that's going to be Riley Amos getting up there for 2nd spot.
I think he was 3rd, actually.
I think
there was
Matt
somebody
Wilson.
else was in there with him.
There was the one rider that was ahead. So yeah, we'll try and get those results to you as quickly as possible. And
but again, those finishing results matter for the day, for the one event at Big Sugar today. But then we also are looking at the results for the overall. So with Cam finishing in front of Keegan, Toby, and Simone, I believe that should put him in the overall lead of the series.
Yeah, we'll have to see where.
Although they finished out of the, this is where math, right?
Keegan
because they would have finished outside of the top 5, so now they're just 1 point differential in the points.
Right. But I think in that front group, only 2 were in the Grand Prix. So
of course.
We had Matt Beers in there, and we had I think Matt Wilson.
Yes.
Still, you need a confirmation on who that 2nd place rider was, because I don't know if he was in the Grand Prix. So it's all going to come down to. Let's see if we can't get a read from the finish line here.
Yeah, we'll do our best to get those results updated here and try and figure out how that leaves our overall standings. Meanwhile, we are looking back at the front end of our women's race, and looks like Lauren DiCrescenzo in there driving the train. That's one of our Trek riders. That's going to be.
That's Gwendolyn Gibson with Melissa Rollins now on Lauren DiCrescenzo's wheel.
So Melissa Rollins with the most to gain on this move right now. So I bet if we pan back, Cecily Decker probably going to be one of the first few riders in the group. So we're not sure what kind of gap they've got right now, but this is a very strong looking group here late in the race. Remember, our women started 10 minutes after our men, so we're not exactly sure where they are on the course at the moment, but we'll try and get that information to you as well.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Cecily sat out Little Sugar due to a back injury that she sustained during Shawamigan. So I'm curious if that's playing a factor into what's happening here up the road. Obviously, Melissa Rollins is incredibly strong. She has had a phenomenal year. And so she's going on the offense right now. Best defense is offense. So that's what she's doing today. So we'll see if Cecily is able to close this gap or if anyone in the group is helping her. There could be other people out there who are looking for the win today who don't factor necessarily into the overall series, or even if they do factor into the overall series, they're still looking for a win today. So there may be somebody back there who is willing to, you know, put in some rotations at the front to help her out. But otherwise, the group could be looking to Cecily and saying, hey, this is your overall to lose today, so you've got to do the work.
Yeah, for my money, I'd be willing to bet that's what's going on up there. It's, I think, you know, these conditions are obviously very challenging. They've been riding into the wind, into the rain now, and they're on that return portion that we know is a headwind. So I think a lot of riders are, you know, probably like, we just want to get this over with. I mean, yes, it's been a shortened race, so they're not out there for the 100-mile duration, but it looks like one rider, it looks like Sofia Gomez Vichafanye now going across. So now we've got a great view on one of these long sections of exactly what's going on. So our 3 leaders, about 5 seconds behind Sofia Gomez Vichafanye, and as scripted, it looks like Decker leading the rest of the group that actually has been thinned out. It only looks like about maybe 8 riders into that group. Maddie Monroe in that group. That looks like Stevens, Lauren Stevens,
Emily
also
Newsom
in that group. Emily Newsom in that group as well. So it looks like I think we're probably going to see a big reformation of this entire front end of the women's race. You can see them just literally tiptoeing around some of these turns out here. So the course really starting to degrade a little bit, becoming a little bit more challenging as they're just being so cautious getting through those turns right now.
Yeah, and this is, you know, the one single track kind of section of the course today. So this is where things can get a little bit strung out. Some riders aren't as comfortable. You have less visibility, you know, a tighter line, and it's just a lot easier for things to get strung out through a single track section like this. So it'll be interesting to see once they come out on the other side of this if there are a few gaps have formed, but they do have plenty of time to bring those gaps back.
Well, right now, 3 leaders in our women's race: Gwendolyn Gibson, Lauren DeCrescenzo, and Melissa Rollins, trying to make it happen off the front.
Almost 35 years ago, Life Time was created to have a positive impact on people's well-being and the way they live their lives.
Well, health advocacy is how we take best care of ourselves if something is off.
Today, Lifetime Digital takes that same vision of vitality and expands it everywhere. Our best classes, proven programs, award-winning content.
All right, now we're gonna add a squat to this. So 1 sweep.
As a ground stroke, we want top spin on this. So therefore, we're gonna need a slightly clear paddle.
Plus, Lacey, your personal wellness companion who knows what works for you. From 1.5 million members to hundreds of millions happier, healthier people across the world. Lifetime Digital, taking wellness beyond the walls.
Hi, I'm Keegan Swenson, Road ID Ambassador. Yeah, Road ID solves a pretty simple problem. You know, it's like you don't want to have to carry all this information with you. It's hard to like figure out what to do with it. You know, you're out there alone, often on remote roads and whatever else. Might not be cell service, so it's nice to have that peace of mind. Like, I always have my info on my wrist. You know, you have phone numbers and you know, you can access blood type, etc. So this might be the least expensive piece of gear on my bike and on my body, but it might arguably be the most important on it. I like it, and I haven't taken it off since I put it on. I wear Road ID because it's a simple little thing that can save my life.
Before KONs, real-time data, watts, before we normalized watts, before zone 2, 3, or 4, before we found pain in caves.
Whoops, not those caves.
There was fax machines, dongles, flip phones, and pagers.
Well, pagers don't really play into our story, but I had one, and I never missed a group ride. I'm Dirk Friel, founder of Training Peaks. It's hard to believe that in the beginning we had to use a dongle to download our data, then dial up to email it to our coach. Haven't heard that sound in a while. That was where we started 25 years ago. Look at us now. Now we've got athletes and engineers like Mindy, Tom, Frank, and Joe. Enjoy your run. At Training Peaks, we are all committed to building the world's best training platform for coaches and athletes to elevate your workouts and make the coach-athlete relationship more meaningful. Group ride tomorrow. You in?
Let's do it.
But it would just be numbers?
No, it's like slow rolling text message.
Okay.
Well, you're seeing it out here today. Endurance demands a focus. Kenetik helps riders stay sharp and locked in. It's clean, ketone-powered brain and body performance fuel. Now available in 2-ounce performance shots. Get yours at drinkkenetik.com. And unleash your potential with Training Peaks, the complete training solution trusted by the world's best athletes. Whether you're chasing a podium or just chasing progress, Training Peaks connects athletes and coaches to plan, track, and crush goals together. Learn more and try it for free at trainingpeaks.com/lifetime. So we're back with our coverage here, and just as a reminder, we did have to pull the helicopter down about 30 minutes ago, 45 minutes ago, so we're doing the best we can to bring you coverage all from the ground here today to keep in tune with where our leaders are and where the chasers are out there on course. So our last view, it looked like we had 3 riders off the front, but it looks now like everything's been kind of reabsorbed, and maybe about 12 to 15 riders in that front bunch right now of our leading women.
Yeah, so we weren't sure as the women went into that single track section if things were going to spread out a little bit, little gaps form, but it looks like they're all back together on the other side of that. So as you said, maybe 10 to 12 women, a couple off the back, looking like they're trying to get back to that group, and I imagine they might, as you know, it looks like there's a little bit of a lull here with no one really wanting to go to the front and set the pace here. They know that they're close to the finish line right now, and probably not a lot is going to really make a difference between now and those last couple climbs up to the finish. So they're kind of conserving, just looking around at each other. But there are definitely a few women in this group who they would, you know, it's to their advantage to try to get away. They don't want to come to the finish line with too many people to sprint against. And then others that are just kind of, specifically with Melissa Rollins and Cecily Decker marking each other. So I think we'll see the same thing happen in the women's race that we did in the men, where Torbjorn Rode and Cameron Jones, Simone Pilot, and Keegan Swenson were all just sort of marking each other coming into that sprint. And I think we'll see something similar here as far as the overall goes. But then who's really going to want to take it on to win the day for the Big Sugar Classic?
Yeah, so riders, looks like just one rider kind of driving the pace right now as everyone else kind of just settling in here as we get to the finale. It looks like they're on that section of road that when we had kind of started to see Matt Beers in solo fashion, that kind of that lollipop section. So my guess is they're probably on that maybe 7-8 miles on the way back into town here. So it shouldn't be terribly long before we see the women. We can still see that rain kind of falling down there. But for the moment, a reminder that our coverage today brought to you by Orange Seal, and we're going to throw it back to Nat Ross.
Matt Beers under the podium finish here because he smashed the competition in the Lifetime Grand Prix. It is now finished for Matt, such a big relief. But talk about today. Let's dive inside today's race with Matt Beers, who animated it from the start and took the win today at the Big Sugar Classic with a lot of gap between the chasing peloton. Matt, today was insane. I know it was a big deal for you to have a great result today, and you right off the bat attacked. And talk us through what that attack meant to you, because it was timed right and you.
All right, we are back with our women here, and again, we believe they're getting close to town here as we continue to see the rain fall, and I'll tell you what, it's still waiting for somebody to kind of take charge. We've seen a lot of attacks out there, but, you know, because nothing's really gotten a whole lot of daylight out there, we really don't, you know, people are kind of playing their cards close again, you know, maybe waiting for that finale. Right when we had kind of caught up with Matt towards the end there, he was on the pavement, so he's already passed that single track section. He was out onto the road to those the final climb there on A Road. So we will be back with our interviews with the winners in just a moment. Just bear with us as we get things dialed in out there at the finish line. But in the meantime, it looks like Michaela Thompson now coming to the front, driving things a little bit.
Exactly. Michaela, you know, she's kind of had an up and down year. She started the season late due to an injury in the off season. So she made it back in time to race at Sea Otter. She wasn't exactly in race fitness at that time, but she was healthy enough to race Sea Otter, get a few points on the board, just get her legs underneath her. She chose to sit out unbound without that off-season winter preparation. She didn't feel like she was ready to go out for a 200-mile race, and it did look like we had somebody attacking up the left-hand side. We can see the speed picking up here. The whole group is like, no, you don't. We are going to close that right down.
I think that's maybe Lauren Stevens, it looked like, with the hydration pack on there.
Could be. I mean, Lauren Stevens, again, just like a Lauren De Crescenzo, is not one of the riders who wants this to come down to a sprint. Neither one of them are like, they can go the distance, but they don't necessarily have the snap for a pure sprint. So it is to their advantage, either one of those riders, and I'm sure there's a few other athletes in that group too who would rather see it get strung out a little bit more. No, we see Lauren Stevens there on the left-hand side towards the back. So, yeah, everyone's just kind of looking at each other right now. I think at this point, most everyone knows that something can happen on those last couple climbs, and they're just kind of sitting in right now waiting for that. So I think that's Stella Hobbs that we're seeing on the front right now, followed by Melissa Rollins.
Yes, so Stella Hobbs going to drive the chase. Rollins, we also saw in there, I believe Courtney Sherwell we saw in that mix, and we also saw Samara Shepard also up in that mix as well. It's a little farther back, Sofia Gomez Vichafanye. Again, a rider with no real need to race super hard, but she may well take advantage of this, right? Of kind of taking a little bit of a free ride, so to speak. So Alexis Scarta going up the far side there. And again, Scarta currently sitting 4th overall. She's a rider that if a lot of things went the right way for her, including pulling out a win, she could move herself up onto the podium right now.
But that would mean, I believe, Cecily and Melissa would have to, looks like somebody just took a wrong turn there, Maud. Missed that turn onto the single track. It's just a little connector, so it's she should be okay.
Yeah,
she could actually come out in front of the group. Oh, well, look at that.
All right,
well
few
timed.
riders, right?
A couple riders missed that turn right there. But
well, no harm, no foul on that one there, as the group kind of split just a little bit on that section.
See Sarah Sturm sitting right in front of Sophia. Sarah Sturm, another one who's not in the Grand Prix, but is here racing for a result for the day. Cecily Decker got gapped off a little bit, it looks like, through that little single track section or whatever that chaos was right there.
It looks like there's a whole lot of separation starting to form there. Decker may be the last one to make it across there in front of Michaela, and a couple riders with a little bit of a gap off the front. 2 or 3 riders now is things you can really get a great vantage point here of things stretching out all the way back through this group. And this late in the race, this is not the time you want to have to be closing down a lot of these little gaps and making these little accelerations. So very dangerous moment right now going on.
And this is where, if you have alliances out there, somebody, if you have somebody who's kind of working for you, they can go to the front, throw in a few digs, a few attacks, just to keep taking kind of stretching it out, burning some matches, for the other riders who might not have it to stay with the group over those last couple climbs or in the sprint. So every little acceleration here right now, they're burning a match to have to get back to that group. So we're seeing a little bit of a gap open up. I believe that's in front of Michaela Thompson right now. So some of these riders getting a little antsy, like, okay, do I have to be the one to go close that gap to bring this all back together again? So at the end of a race, when those gaps open up and you're just like head down, you're in the attack position, you're laying down all the watts that you can. When just a teeny little gap opens up like that, it is hard to close. And so I believe this is Haley Preen, who is currently sitting 7th overall in the standings, just getting tailed off a little bit on the back of this group.
Well, things really starting to hit the fan here in the closing bit of our women's race. Things single file, and this is one of the The first times we've seen an extended single file section here going on at the front is, yeah, we're definitely seeing some separation. 3 riders now starting to move clear on the front as we look to try and identify them up there. It looks like
I believe that's Maud Farrell, who came around that turn, you know, on the road instead of the single track. I believe that's Melissa Rollins to the left there, right, who just slotted in right behind her. Can't tell quite yet who that third rider is, but this is where the race is heating up for the women as they come into these last few climbs into the finish line. And, you know, again, not wanting it to come down to a sprint for these riders.
Oh, look who's chasing back there again. You can almost tell that that's Decker, one of the riders near the front there at the back chasing.
Yeah, just, you know, I don't know, Cecily doesn't necessarily she doesn't come from a road background, so just trying to figure out the tactics here.
All right, we're going to go back to our man Nat Ross at the finish line for the interviews of the men's race.
We're at the end of the Grand Prix, the finish line. Matt Beers soloed today to take the win at the Big Sugar Classic. Matt, what an early attack that you made, and it stuck. Walk us through your day.
Yeah, I knew, first of all, I didn't want to, there was 2 like gravel descents right in the beginning, and I didn't want to be near the back on that. I just absolutely centered on the front and made sure I was right at the front, and then, yeah, camped through a few attacks right in the beginning, and then I went with Matthew Wilson and Riley Amos, and yeah, the elastic broke on little Sugar Road, and that was probably about 5 miles in or so. And yeah, I said we just keep it on, man. And it slowly went out, slowly, and yeah, I said we just need to bank on them kind of negative racing, because they're all going to look at each other with the points and stuff. And there was one moment where we thought we would get caught again, got pretty close, and then, but I know, like, if you just keep the pressure on, you should. Yeah, but we had a great cohesion between Riley, Matt, and myself, and yeah, it was a privilege being with those boys.
Well, you were thankful for him, and let's talk about that. You were kind of getting the point across that there was going to be some gambling going back behind the field. You got over a minute gap going, and honestly, those 2 couldn't keep your sustained pace. So something's working with your fitness right now, because you are on fire.
Yeah, I mean, Riley obviously just came off of the World Cup season, so he's got that big punch, and then Matt, unfortunately, smashed the rim like, I think, man, it must have been like 6K to go or something, which I really feel for him. He was riding really well, and I wouldn't have been able to do it without those boys. So, yeah, huge shout out to them. But, yeah, stoked I could get this win.
Well, Matt Beers, time for you to recover, because you got some stage races back at home, so you're leaving our continent and you're heading on over back home. Great job today.
Thank you.
Rockstar, dude.
All right, so some great insight there from Matt Beers, and that answered our Matt Wilson question. The broken rim there, just about 6Ks, roughly 4 miles to go. So, yeah, tough spot to be in for Matt Wilson there at the very tail end of the race.
Yeah, that's not a fun way to end a race with any sort of equipment issues, breakages, flats, nothing like that. You know, you don't want your day to finish like that, but it is part of the game. It's part of the game out here on these rough chunk roads, as Paige kept referring to them, a lot of gravel chunk. So a lot of it is not if, but when things might go wrong, and then also how do you handle that adversity when it does happen, and how do you get back on the road and rolling again as quickly as you can. So here we are back with the women, seeing everybody back together again. Maud Farrell at the front, that's Lauren DiCrescenzo on the left side, Melissa Rollins right there in the middle in that more blue and white jersey. Everyone is definitely just looking around. There have been some attempts to go off the front, but of course everything just keeps getting chased down, and so, you know, that kind of people kind of stop trying after a while. Once they try again and again and again, and every time that gets closed down, then that's a match that they're burning, you know, trying to go off the front. So eventually, you know, you just kind of have to shut it down and wait for that last opportunity one more time before the finish.
Yeah, and that's where the smart riders are like, okay, we know this hasn't worked so far, so we're just gonna wait for a pivotal moment here and try and make one big run at it here. So we're now seeing a little bit of an attack, but we are going to go back to Nat with some more interviews on the finish line.
Big Sugar Classic at the finish with second place today. Griffin Easter, today was your day. Talk about your animation and the aggressiveness. You were literally drilling it and closing in where there was so much tactics with all the big players trying to win today, and you bested them.
Yeah, first off, thank you. Thanks to Lifetime. Today was a crazy day. It got shortened from 100 down to 50 due to weather. But I wanted to take advantage of the overall. Everybody was looking at each other because it's real tight with the points, the first top 5 guys. I, last weekend, had to start the race, but I unfortunately had a broken bike flying out for Little Sugar. So I kind of lost my bid for the overall, so I had nothing to lose today. So I really wanted to be aggressive.
And this is what you've been waiting for. You're just tapping at these results. Today you nailed it.
Yeah, I'm so happy. I finally feel like I had some good luck on my side. This whole season's been kind of a collection of bad luck. I've been real close to a big result, and to get second today here is just an honor, and so happy.
Well, let's get you warm because it was gnarly out there today. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys. We'll see you soon.
All right, we are back with the women, and they are on A Street right now. They are just over the first of those paved climbs as we're looking at the lead group of our women now making their way down. And we've got another selection here, 4 riders. I believe that's going to be Sofia Gomez-Vichafanier on the left in the red and blue. Maybe Melissa Rollins right there coming past one of our men there. So now Rollins coming through there, leading the charge with Sophia. We'll try and identify these other 2 riders, but we don't see any more women in sight. So they're making their way down. It's going to level out for about 3/4 of a mile. Then we get that last pitch before they come up into town. So that speed's starting to drop off a little bit right now. So maybe a little cat and mouse game here as these 4 riders, I believe it's 4 riders, making their way to the line. And we just make out the moto headlight a little bit behind them with the rest of the women. So I'll tell you what, there's no times for games right now. They've got to commit.
And these riders are looking at each other right now, and so this plays into the hands of the chase group. You know, when there's no cohesion in that front group to pull through and to work together, every time there's a lull in the front, you better bet that chase group, which we can see coming, is taking advantage of that. And so they've got to bet on those first 4 riders just not working together. And I believe that's Lauren Stevens, who I think was probably the one who initiated the attack over that little climb. And so a few riders went with her, and now they're all just looking at each other again. And so I think we're going to see contact from that chase group any second here, and then we'll see who takes the initiative again the next time.
Well, we know we've got one more steep climb to come up into town. It's roughly, I bet it's about 1 minute and 20 seconds from bottom to top on that climb. It's steep enough at the bottom that you can certainly get a little bit of separation, but then it levels out. You kind of get that bend to the right and then that hard left turn that's going to put you in sight of the line. And now we're starting to see a whole lot of animation. Here's another rider. Looks like they're throwing down an attack here. Again, we've still got about a half mile before we really get into that climb proper as they get over this little roller right now.
Yeah, and that group of 4 looked back over their shoulder. They saw the chase group coming, and the last thing they want to do is have that chase group make contact. So they are going to, you know, that was a little bit of an impetus for them to put the hammer down again, turn on the gas a little bit more going into this last climb where maybe that group will not be able to make contact.
You're trying to, that might be, is that Lauren DiCrescenzo, I think, on the front maybe?
I think you're right.
Just watching her body language and her pedaling style, that definitely looks like her. And she's not really attacking, just kind of setting the tempo right now, trying to dig in hard, but still those 4 riders still together. I believe that's going to be Sofia Gomez-Vichafanier on her wheel. You could see, I think that was Lauren Stevens maybe taking a look back over her shoulder there. And that chase group, I mean, they look so close, but here goes the move by Stevens. So just as they hit the bottom pitch of the very final climb here as they go under the path, Lauren Stevens throwing down a big move. We're going to see if this does any kind of damage. Sophia now taking over the pacemaking. So Sofia Gomez-Vichafanier looking like maybe she's getting a little bit of daylight here, Meredith.
Yeah, I think you're right. Obviously, we know Sophia is on good form right now. She always is. Coming off a big win at Little Sugar last weekend, just absolutely absolutely dominating that race almost from beginning to end. Looks like Lauren Stevens is trying to get back on the wheel of Sophia. Again, Sophia already has the overall series locked up, so her win today is a great win, but it's meaningful for the day, not the series. Lauren Stevens behind her is not in the Grand Prix, so again, she's looking for a result on the day that won't impact the overall series.
And look at the gap they have pulled out right now. So the very big gap. Sofia Gomez Vichafanye, your leader, she's in the red and the blue with that white helmet as she makes her way up. If that camera spins around, we know that this terrain is going to level out here any moment. The grade right now, only about 3% maybe at most before it levels out for maybe a block. The road will bend to the right. And, you know, maybe Sophia, you wonder if she caught word that her teammate Matt Beers took a win. So this could be a wonderful day for the Specialized squad. And, excuse me, what an exclamation point on the overall Lifetime Grand Prix series here if Sofia Gomez Vichafanye can take out the final win while holding on to yet another overall series title here. And I'll tell you, Lauren Stevens giving everything she can, but she's just not making up any real estate right now. She's staying just close enough that Sophia is continuing to look back under her shoulder. She knows she's there. She can probably hear her back there for that matter. So Sophia, again, looking back, she knows she can't give up. She wants to take a deep breath. She wants to kind of reset for just a second there as she makes that right-hander. Now she's going to make a left turn onto Main Street right now, so she's going to be able to see the finish line as she begins her acceleration. I'll tell you what, she's starting to pull out a little more gap. You've got just this tiny little upgrade here before it levels out again and almost downhill to the line. And Sofia Gomez Vichafanye, she is going to the well for everything she's got right now. She's just about to come inside the fencing, so the final couple hundred meters, and Sofia Gomez Vichafanye looks like she is going to cap off the 2025 a Lifetime Grand Prix with a very emphatic win here. So Sofia Gomez Vichafanye will be your women's champion here in the final stop of the Lifetime Grand Prix here at Lifetime Big Sugar Gravel, presented by Kenetik.
That was a fantastic ride by Sophia, followed by Lauren Stevens there, and the group coming in for the sprint. So hard to see who it was coming in. We've got to wait to see how the finish happened between Melissa and Cecily, but you can see the pain on Sophia's face right there. That was a hard effort coming into the finish. She knew that she had to go all in to be able to stay away from Lauren Stevens, who was trying her hardest. Both of those riders absolutely incredible at taking long going from the long distance and being out alone on the roads, and you know they're used to these hard efforts at the end of the day.
Well, I'll tell you what, the parties at the Specialized, I mean, forget about the gravel rave tonight. We're going to the Specialized Airbnb for the party tonight. These, what a great day for the squad here today, with Matt Beers taking your men's win and Sofia Gomez Vichafanye taking out the win on the women's side. So we'll try and get you the top three for that as well. We know Sofia going to take the overall victory out here today, and we still have to do some tabulations on the men's side to figure that one out, but we've got our crew working hard to get that all dialed in here momentarily. But I'll tell you what, the 50 miles did not disappoint. We knew that this was going to be a great race. We knew it was going to be exciting. It was going to be super animated, and we weren't let down by any stretch.
No, not at all. I mean, it was a different dynamic out there today, and you can see the pain. I mean, we see this at the end of 100 miles. We see it at the end of a 50-mile race today. So it's hard in a different way out there today, with different challenges, from not necessarily knowing the course to higher speeds because it was a shorter race, to then the conditions today also played a factor. You know, just getting to the finish line today without any sort of mechanicals, flats, anything like that was a big accomplishment. And then to come in with this big group for the sprint, you know, we'll see what these overall results were from today, but I believe we can see some that's a happy emotion right there from Courtney Sherwell.
Yeah, that's wonderful emotion, honestly. That's if you're an athlete of any sort, you know, you understand that kind of emotion, and you can appreciate that kind of emotion at the end of a day like today. Just full gas racing the entire time. obviously battling a lot of elements out there, battling one of the more challenging courses in the Lifetime Grand Prix. Big Sugar always serving up some great racing. It's no surprise why we always make this the grand finale of the Lifetime Grand Prix every year here at Big Sugar Gravel. What a day out on course today.
It's a little bit like mixing the best of road with the best of mountain biking, but you get to go from town to town or place to place.
Well, endurance isn't just physical. Fuel your mental edge with Kenetik. Patented ketone-powered brain and body performance fuel. Now in a 2-ounce performance shot. Kenetik is perfect for training and race days. Get yours at drinkkenetik.com.
All right, Bill, we just saw an exciting day of racing here in Northwest Arkansas at the Big Sugar Classic. What was supposed to be a 100-mile was reduced to 50 miles due to inclement severe weather. We saw some hard rain out there. We even saw a couple lightning strikes. The helicopter ended up having to be grounded due to the weather. Right now, we're seeing the women in the finish line shoot, congratulating each other after a hard day. Again, you know, it was, even though it wasn't 100 miles, it was still a hard day out there for a lot of different reasons. And I'm excited to hear what the athletes have to say with the, you know, the way that the race unfolded. The rain at the end of the race, you know, would have played a, you know, it had an impact on the day on some degree, I'm sure. And so just seeing, we'll hear what happened out there sooner than later with, you know, Sophia taking the win on the day and then absolutely putting a stamp on the overall Lifetime Grand Prix series.
Well, I'll tell you, every year the Lifetime Grand Prix gets bigger and better. And, you know, I know they're working on some stuff for next year to add it to the series out there. And don't forget the things from this year. Our top U23, top man, top woman, that's going to be Griffin Hoppen and Ruth Easter. They both, or I'm sorry, Ruth Holcomb. Getting my names mixed up here. Are both moving on to the Lifetime Grand Prix next year, so they automatically qualify. And then our top 5 overall for both the men and the women this year will auto-qualify. So that'll take up 6 spots on each side for both the men and the women for next year. And yeah, we'll see what more changes our Lifetime staff has in store. But every year we're taking steps to continue to make this the biggest and best bike race, not even off-road series, but the best bike race series in the world.
Yeah, and I think this year, I think everyone would agree that the wild card entries was actually pretty exciting, added a new element to the overall standings. So whoever had the most race points after Unbound were then entered into the overall series.
All right, we are going to move over to the finish line with Lauren Hall for our rider interviews.
Ladies and gentlemen, your 2025 Grand Prix winner for Big Sugar Classic and overall winner, Sophia Gomez Vichafanye, wrapped it up again. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much. I
I thrive in chaos, and with the uncertainty, are we racing 100, are we racing 50? Although I was praying we were going to do the 50, I thought it would just deliver some really exciting racing. And yeah, it was chaos for 50 miles, attacks going left and right, and came down to the wire.
And talk about that transition this morning. Like you're saying, it was chaotic, but were you excited once it changed to the 50? What changes did that add to the race tactics out there?
Yeah, I mean, I had been looking at the weather, and I thought a miracle has to happen for us to do the 100. So yesterday, actually, Matt and I went and pre-rode basically the 50-mile course all the way till it teed into the 100. And I learned that he also won the race, so maybe that was the really smart tactic to do. But I kind of knew where the pinch points were, although I did forget about that last kicker before the little single track we were going to do, and I had to do a really big chase to come back to the girls, and it ended up being a little bit useless because we all got swallowed up. And yeah, I mean, once we had a little bit of selection on that climb, my legs actually felt surprisingly good. And the girls were trying to get me to pull, but I know my strength is in the sprint. I optimized my bike for that sprint finish. And Lauren went, I saw we had a little gap, and I kicked it again. And I think I haven't seen my heart rate that high in a really, really long time. So yeah, super excited to wrap up the Grand Prix win Big Sugar again, do the little Bentonville sweep, and end the year in such a good note, and no crashes because I have a wedding in like 2 weekends.
Yeah, I mean, you wrap this up phenomenally. And talk just a little bit briefly on the tactics that you could let Cecily and Melissa play those tactics, and you can sit back and let that race come to you, and then having that attack at the end. Like, how much did that play in your day today?
I mean, honestly, I think the bunch was so big that we were all racing for best place finish. There wasn't too much tactics going on. Although on that single track, when I bridged up to Melissa, LDC, and Gwen, I did bring Decker with me. And once we got out of that and I saw her behind me, I kind of gave her a thumbs up because that was going to be a really exciting battle. Bummed I didn't get to see it, but I'm looking forward to watching the replay.
Congratulations on another great win, and we look forward to seeing you at the podium.
Cool. Thank you so much.
All right, we are back here in the studio, and what a day. Is a great interview there with our women's winner, Sofia Gomez Vichafanye, checking out our results. Lauren Stevens running home with a silver medal today. Stella Hobbs in third. Alexis Scarda with a fourth on the day. And Courtney Sherwell rounding out your top five. And looks like Michaela Thompson coming home in sixth. Sarah Sturm with a great ride in seventh. Flavia Oliveira Parks in eighth. Cecily Decker going to come away with ninth. And Lorna De Crescenzo rounding out your official top 10 on the day for our women.
Yeah, what a race. You heard Sophia say that she hasn't seen her heart rate this high in a long time. So that just is a testament to even though it was a shortened race, to how hard the race was, to the change in the dynamics, the tactics. You know, she said her and Matt Beers, her teammate, went out and pre-rode most of the course yesterday so that they knew exactly where the pinch points were, where the attacks were going to go. She, had it burned into her memory exactly what was, what her plan was today, minus one little section that she forgot, but in the end that didn't make a difference. And so now I'm just curious to see how things shake out in the overall, because we see Alexis Scarda, who was sitting in that fourth place behind Cecily Decker and Melissa Rollins, ended up finishing in front of them. So I'm curious to see how it's all going to shake out in the overall.
Yeah, it will be interesting. So I think we're getting ready to head over to Lauren Hall again with an interview with our second place rider, Lauren Stevens.
Bill and Meredith, we are here with our second place podium position on the day, Lauren Stevens. Congratulations on an eventful day out there. Can you talk us a little bit through the race and the finish with you and Sophia coming in?
Yeah, it was a very exciting race, I think, being the shorter distance. The group stayed bigger, longer, and I think it felt a bit more like tactical in the fact that like anybody could have won today. So that made it really exciting. Coming into the finish, that second to last climb, LDC put in a really good move. And I was like, man, I got to go. I got to try to follow this. And I barely made it over the top with LDC, Melissa, and Sophia. And then we had the four of us, and then we're going there along the bike path. And we didn't really know what to do at that point because nobody really wanted to pedal too hard, but we didn't have that big of a gap. So I tried to keep things rolling a bit. And then when we hit that last steep climb, I was like, well, we all got to go hard here, so I might as well try. And Sophia was able to go over the top of me, and I just kept pushing, trying to close it to her, and was able to hold on to for second.
And talk about that last kick. Sophia was basically saying she hadn't seen her heart rate that high all year. Like, what does that feel like coming into the finish like that? Could you even see the finish line?
Yeah, you know, we've done this finish before. Like, actually, I've only done this race once. I did the 50 mile in 2021, so it would have been cool if I could have won it again. You know, since I guess I was second also then. Andrew Dahlheim beat me that day. But yeah, I don't really look at those things when I'm going, and just keep pedaling and pushing and pushing.
All right, so is this the end of the season for you, or is there more racing to be had as the gravel national champion?
Yeah, I'm heading over to South Africa. I've never been to Africa. It'll be my last continent to race on besides Antarctica, but there's no bike races there, so it's kind of hard to race your bike there. So I'm really excited to go to South Africa for Gravel Burn, doing a 7-day stage race.
Well, thank you so much. Congratulations, Lauren, on second place.
Thank you.
Guys, back to you.
All right. Hey, just as a reminder, Arkansas has more than 90,000 miles of rivers and streams to float, fish, swim, and explore.
Well, and I can attest to that, having spent a fair amount of time in Northwest Arkansas and being part of the Ozark Foundation here, which puts on a lot of different races, not just bike races, but swim races, adventure races, kayaking, canoe, all the different things. There are so many things to do here in this area of the country, and it's a very outdoor-oriented place to be. And so when you're outside, you can see all sorts of different activities going on.
Yeah, it's such a wonderful area. I mean, there's literally over 550 miles of interconnected trails, the Oz Trail Network here in this region that started all the way back in 2007. It's amazing. It's been that long, with just a 5-mile, that Slaughter Pen Trail, you know, that we're all so familiar with, was kind of the beginning of all that in Bentonville, and the Walton family obviously playing a big hand in helping create all these trails back here. And yeah, it's Northwest Arkansas has become the de facto place, pretty much certainly in the U.S., but probably in the world, for people to come for mountain bikes, and it's been a great economic impact for the area. And I'll tell you what, we always love coming down here for the final series of the race, and this year having Little Sugar in the series is the first time Little Sugar was in the Life Time Grand Prix. So being able to be here for literally a week on the ground and being able to immerse ourselves into the Northwest Arkansas culture has been pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm a little jealous about that. I was at a different event last weekend.
You were in Kona, so
I was in Kona for a totally different event. So got out here on Tuesday, but I did bring my mountain bike. Normally I do the Big Sugar gravel race myself, the 50 mile anyway, but without racing today, I chose to bring a mountain bike out here, and I'm excited for a day off tomorrow to be able to hit some of those trails that are well known and becoming even more popular around here as a destination for people around the country to come here. Over the years that I've been coming here, meeting people from all parts of the country, from all corners of the country, coming here to ride their bike is a pretty phenomenal thing. And what the Walton family has done for gravel racing, for mountain bike racing, the number of trails, or the number of miles of mountain bike trail here is astounding. I think it's like just in the Northwest Arkansas area, 400, I think, plus miles. I don't know exactly what it is, but you can ride for days and hours. And so the fact that they were able to put Little Sugar into the overall series Lifetime Grand Prix this year was pretty cool. And it was a real mountain bike race. And I say real meaning Chequamegon and Leadville, we saw a lot of drop bar mountain bikes,
Right.
which you could not do at Little Sugar. That is a proper mountain bike race.
We jokingly brought that question up at the athlete panel last week before Little Sugar of like, okay, look, this is kind of an old school, really technical mountain bike course. What's anyone thinking about drop bars? And everyone laughing like, oh no, this is the real deal. It's the the full squish, it's the flat bars, it's the full
big tires,
the whole
protected
9
tires.
yards. And even so, it was like so many riders. It was kind of interesting because we've had so many great gravel and mountain bike riders, obviously, in the series, and so many riders getting done last week with just deer in the headlight look of how hard that race is. And there was some riders who were like, we would love to see another something like this in the series. So it's been a phenomenal addition, and I think pretty much everyone's excited to have it.
For sure. I think there were a lot of athletes who don't come from a mountain bike background that I had talked to throughout the year, and I was saying, okay, Little Sugar, it's a proper mountain bike race. It's a proper mountain bike race. But if they haven't been doing mountain bike races outside of Chequamegon or Leadville, I don't know that they actually really know what that means to say a proper mountain bike race, and they sure found out.
Oh man, they found out times 10 out there. It's just was a great day of racing, and of course this was a great day of racing to close out the 2025 Lifetime Grand Prix, and 6 great races in the series. Hard to believe it's been so long since we kicked things off back at the WeatherTech Laguna Seca Raceway out there in Monterey with Sea Otter and
April.
In April, right? Amazing, right? All the way back in April doing that. So and then we moved over to Emporia for Unbound, and that race so different than any other in the series. 200 miles. Every other race is 100 miles or shorter, but Unbound is like, it's kind of this thing of its own at 200 miles. And I mean, for being in Emporia, Kansas, and we talked today about being here in Northwest Arkansas and that death by 1,000 cuts of just the short, continually up and down. Not that different in Emporia. There's actually a lot of elevation. I mean, granted, it's 200 miles, but there's a lot of elevation out there on that one as well.
Yeah, and not too many long extended climbs. I don't know that anything out there would probably be more than 5-6 minutes, something like that. And so, it's just punchy climb after punchy climb, and again 200 miles of that, so it's more of a race of attrition, and we saw Cam Jones go off the front of that race with Simone Pelot for a while, and Cam Jones took the win there, and Caroline Migon took the win on the women's side, but she is not part of the Lifetime Grand Prix. So then then from there we moved into Leadville, so we had a bit of a break throughout the summer, where riders had a chance to either just chill at home, do some training, or maybe take the opportunity to go do some other races around the world. So then Leadville we jumped into in August, up at 10,000 feet in Leadville, Colorado.
It's almost like, I bet some of the riders welcome the break from Unbound, because a lot of riders probably do some high altitude training, right, to get ready for Leadville, because I mean, living over on the Front Range area there, that living at 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 feet, that's one thing, right? And doing races rather at that kind of a level, but doing races at 10,000 feet up to 12,500, whole different ball of wax. And so even riders that live at 4,000, 5,000, and 6,000, they need to actually think about training at altitude. So, the riders that live closer to sea level, that's a great opportunity between Unbound and Leadville to be like, okay, they're going to obviously do some other races outside of the Lifetime Grand Prix, but they can start to think like, all right, I've got a couple-week block here where I can go to altitude and do some training.
Yeah. So, I mean, I live at 5,500 feet, so that's kind of my sea level. So going up to 10,000 feet, that's kind of another 5,000 feet for me, and it definitely makes a big difference going up to altitude that high.
All right, we're going to throw it back to Nat Ross on the finish line to interview Cam Jones.
Cam Jones, Grand Prix. We are finished with the Grand Prix this year. You came into this season as a wild card. Last week, it was your second victory in the mountain bike race at Little Sugar. Today, you secured the bunch sprint where you needed to be. All day, you were calm and collected. It was an insane race. Walk us through what went through your mind, because today you finished exactly where you needed to be.
Yeah, it was a crazy race. There were like so many moves going all day, but there was only 4 people I really had to worry about. And so, yeah, I just kept my eye on them. I was probably one of the most aggressive of us 4. I put in multiple moves, and while it never really got a group of us away, I could tell it was hurting those at the back. And so just positioning myself at the front all day, it never got me away in a group, but it certainly put the pain on the others. And coming into the finish, I was where I needed to be and just had the sprinting legs on the day.
Well, Cam, you wrapped up the season, and it was a fairy tale ending for you with the Grand Prix. We're sending you off in style. Congratulations on the victories, the wins this year, and then the overall.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been such a fun series to be part of. Yeah, look forward to coming back next year.
Next year is a long time away from now, but let's talk about the power today that you had to put down in that positioning, because it was insane. It was the tactical precision, and you threaded the needle properly to the finish line in downtown Bentonville.
Yeah, you had to keep pretty steady power on just to stay well positioned, and then every hill was all you could give. I think power numbers was like 330 average, 400 normalized. So, yeah, short, sharp race. We knew it was going to be like that, and but yeah, it wasn't quite as long as it would have been if it was 100 miles. So, yeah, it was a fun day.
Well, let's get you warm, insane. See you at the award ceremony next.
Thank you. Yeah, see everyone at the party.
All right, well, what a day here out in Northwest Arkansas at Big Sugar Gravel. It has been a wonderful 2025, a Lifetime Grand Prix season. And what a way to end it here with some weather coming in, some different dynamics at play, and taking 100 miles, making it 50, but still serving up some very phenomenal racing out there on the course as we get our look again at the media zone. Riders still getting those interviews, trying to get warm, trying to get dry out there. Hannah Otto there with a big smile on her face talking to Lauren, trying to stay dry out there. And yeah, I'll tell you what a day. I don't think any one of us a week ago saw this one coming, right?
No, not at all. It wasn't until a few days ago that we really saw the weather kind of start to move in. And then, I mean, I think we've been talking, ever since Little Sugar, knowing what everyone's drop races was going to be, and then coming into this weekend, we knew that it was going to be super, super tight for the men in the, with the race for the overall. Sophia already having the overall locked up. Then it was a race between second and third for between Cecily Decker and Melissa Rollins. So Cam Jones did what he had to do today to take the overall win in the Grand Prix, the Lifetime Grand Prix series. So phenomenal. And what a story, having not started officially in the Lifetime Grand Prix, but coming in as a wild card after his win at Unbound. He gets, once he was in the official results, then he gets shuffled in to the overall. I think he moved into 5th place right away after his win at Unbound, and then kind of stayed right around there. And then with his win at Little Sugar last weekend, then put him in the the running for the overall series win.
Yeah, he's had a great series again, as you allude to, with the coming in off the wild card and taking the win at Unbound in the 200-mile race, taking a win in Little Sugar.
Showing his versatility.
Race, right? Like, what versatility. I mean, amazing what he showed out there. So Cam Jones, we finally gotten word here in the studio that he is going to be your 2025 Lifetime Grand Prix overall champion on the men's side. So great ride by Cam Jones, and every streak is meant to end. So Keegan Swenson's streak coming to a close here, but Cam Jones out of New Zealand, the wild card entrant into this year's Lifetime Grand Prix, taking the win and taking top honor. So a great ride by him to win 2 races out of the series and do exactly what he needed to do here in the season finale. So Cam Jones, Sophia Gomez, Avisha Fanye, your overall champions out here today. A big thanks to our friends at Orange Seal for bringing the live coverage of our event out here. Some wonderful coverage throughout the season. We want to thank Orange Seal for being a big part of bringing that to your screens. Some final parting shots there as we look at the finish line area. Folks running for cover pretty quickly after the finish line. And, yeah, I think everyone already thinking about next year just a little bit and wondering what Chemo Seymour and the entire Lifetime crew are going to come up with. They'll go back to the drawing board. They'll celebrate a little bit at the Gravel Rave later tonight. Of course, you don't want to miss that. We'll have our overall awards. We're going to have a great big party and a great big celebration. That's coming up later tonight at the Momentary. That'll be a fun night indeed.